Good evening. Before you drift into the quiet edges of the night, take a slow breath, let your shoulders soften, and allow yourself to settle deeply into the moment. Tonight, you are not sitting in your room. You are far away in another century, in a land shaped by forests, frost, and the endless patience of winter. Tonight, you are walking into medieval Poland, a place where winter is not just a season but a ruler, an ancient force that decides who thrives, who suffers, and who survives once the first snow begins to fall. You step onto the narrow path leading into the village just as the last light of dusk slips behind the dark silhouettes of pine trees. The air carries a sharp, crisp bite, the kind that settles instantly against your skin. Your breath forms a pale mist before your face. In the distance, the wind moves through the birch branches, making them rattle like old bones. Already you feel it. Winter is coming, and here, winter demands respect. Medieval Poland stretches around you, wide and vast, shaped by thick forests that seem to have no end. To the west and north, plains roll out like a great white sea. To the east, quiet marshlands freeze into solid ground as soon as the frost arrives. And from the Baltic coast, icy winds sweep inland, cutting through villages, forests, and open fields with a relentless chill. This is not a gentle land. And as you look around, you understand that the people who live here do not simply endure winter, they survive it. The villagers you pass are pulling the last bundles of straw indoors. Chickens cluck nervously in the snow. A dog shakes frost off its fur. Someone is chopping firewood with urgent rhythm, each strike ringing out sharply in the cold air. Everyone is moving quickly, purposefully. There is no wasting time. The nights are long, and the cold has a way of slipping into the cracks of life when you least expect it. You feel the weight of winter too, a kind of quiet warning in your chest. As you step deeper into the village, you can see how everything here has been shaped by centuries of harsh winters. Homes are built from solid logs cut from the forest-thick pine, sturdy oak, pale birch. The roofs are thatched with straw, arranged in layers like a shield against snow. Along the walls, moss and clay fill every gap, sealing out wind and freezing air. These houses are not beautiful in the modern sense, but they are strong, warm, and wise designed, with the knowledge of many generations who learned what cold can do. Smoke rises from low chimneys, drifting into the quiet evening sky. Illness waits in the smoke-filled corners of homes. When the temperature drops, even the rivers freeze, cutting off one of the most important sources of life. But still, the people endure because they must. You watch a group of villagers working together to carry a heavy log toward a house. You see children helping to stuff dried straw into a gap in the wall. You hear a woman calling to her neighbor, offering to share a pot of soup. In this cold land, survival is not an individual effort. It is a shared one. Everyone depends on everyone else. Every fire matters. Every skill matters. Every hand matters. And now you are part of this world too. You feel the kojuk, the sheepskin coat, wrapped around your shoulders, heavy, warm, and slightly rough. The fur brushes your neck, insulating you from the cold. Beneath it, you wear layers of linen and wool, clothes not built for elegance but for protection. On your feet, your shoes are lined with straw, soft and crunchy, keeping the frost from numbing your toes. Each part of your clothing has a purpose. Each layer is a small defense against winter's silent hunger. As you walk through the snowy path, you realize that the people of medieval Poland did not dress to survive style, they dressed to survive nature. And so do you. Soon, the elderly village head approaches you. His beard is white with frost, and his hands are thick and scarred from years of cutting firewood. He greets you not with fear, not with suspicion, but with calm understanding. Travelers are rare in winter, but the cold has a way of equalizing everyone. If you are outside in this weather, you must need shelter, and he offers it without hesitation. He leads you to a wooden home, low and warm, where firelight flickers in the window. When you step inside, a wave of heat hits your face, and you exhale in relief. The hearth burns in the middle of the room, flames licking the air with soft orange glow. Smoke curls upward and escapes through a hole in the roof. The scent of pine mixes with the aroma of mushroom soup simmering over the fire. Inside this home, you can breathe, relax, and understand what survival means in this land. You sit near the fire, listening to the crackle of birch logs as the warmth slowly returns to your fingers. A child hands you a wooden cup filled with warm mead. The sweetness soothes your throat. A woman offers you a bowl of hot stew, thick with cabbage and bits of preserved meat. You eat slowly, savoring the life hidden in each spoonful. This is how medieval Poland survives winter. Not with grand inventions, not with wealth, but with resourcefulness, endurance, and community. Outside, the wind howls again, pressing against the wooden walls. Snow taps lightly at the window. You hear the distant cry of a wolf echoing across the plains. But for now, you are safe inside this warm lodge, sharing food, warmth, and breath with the people who have lived with the winter for centuries. Tonight, as you rest your hands near the fire, you begin to understand the truth. Winter is not the enemy here. Winter is the teacher. It teaches you patience as you wait for storms to pass. It teaches you humility as you face forces far larger than yourself. It teaches you resilience as you adapt, layer by layer, to survive the cold. And it teaches you that life, even in harshness, can be warm, rich, and full of small joys. As your eyes grow heavy and your breathing slows, you let the gentle warmth of the fire cradle you. The long winters of medieval Poland stretch endlessly beyond the walls. But inside this room, wrapped in fur and surrounded by quiet voices, you feel something unexpected: peace. You are part of this land now, and the story of its winter survival is only just beginning. You stand before the house that will shelter you through the freezing months. A humble wooden structure built not for beauty, but for survival. When you run your hand along the wall, the wood feels solid and slightly rough, carrying the scent of pine sap and cold air. These walls come from the surrounding forests, great trees felled by villagers long before the first snow fell. Pine, birch, and oak, each type of wood chosen for a reason. Pine burns well and builds quickly. Birch is pale and strong, resisting rot. Oak is heavy, stubborn, and stubbornly warm when winter presses against it. As you step closer, you realize that every log, every notch, every beam has been shaped with patience. The villagers carried these timbers from the forest on their backs or dragged them by horse through the late autumn mud. They stacked them in interlocking patterns, letting their weight settle naturally. The result is a home that does not bow to the cold easily. When you push open the wooden door and step inside, you feel it instantly. The cold stays outside. This place was built to protect you, season after season. The moment the door closes behind you, the world changes. The wind's sharp whistle softens into a distant hum, as if winter itself has been pushed back by the simple act of crossing this threshold. Your shoulders loosen without you realizing. The air inside is warmer, stiller, and scented with wood smoke that has seeped into every beam over the years. Your boots press into a packed earth floor covered with woven reed mats. The faint crunch underfoot reminds you of the world outside the frost, the snow, the endless cold, but here, sheltered by these walls, the sound loses its bite. The dim interior glows with a soft amber light cast by the central hearth. Shadows sway gently across the wooden walls, moving like silent guardians keeping watch. You step closer to one of the walls again, running your hand along the solid pine. Up close, you can see the slight irregularities of each log, not perfect, not smooth, but resolute. Every notch has a story. Every beam carries the marks of an axe, a hand, a purpose. You notice how the logs are fitted tightly together, angled and locked with a simple but clever joint. No gaps, no trembling. Even when the wind howls outside, these walls hold firm, refusing to let the cold snake inside. It's a structure built not by architects, but by people who understood winter the way sailors understand the sea, through experience, through hardship, through respect. A small gust of outside cold escapes from the doorframe where you entered, and for a brief moment, you feel the stark contrast, the icy sting on your back, and the gentle, spreading warmth in front of you. You instinctively move deeper into the room, toward the fire, toward survival. As you walk, you notice a wooden beam running across the ceiling, darkened by decades of smoke. Strips of dried meat hang from it, swaying slightly in the warm draft rising from the hearth. Some pieces are thick and glossy, others look almost black from months of careful smoking. They are winter's lifeline, stored high and safe from pests, humid air, and hungry animals. You look back at the doorway. Snowflakes cling to the bottom of the door, slowly melting into tiny droplets. The cold outside seems patient, waiting, as if testing the strength of the home, searching for weaknesses. But the structure holds, the logs hold, the insulation holds, and so do you. You take another slow step, feeling warmth slowly return to your fingertips. The villagers built these homes to outlast storms, to protect children, elders, and strangers alike. And now, you feel that protection enveloping you like an old, heavy blanket. The air inside is thick with the comforting scent of smoldering birchwood, the soft sweetness of smoke, and the faint, earthy aroma of straw mats. You breathe deeply, letting the warmth settle into your chest. For the first time since you stepped into this land of long winters, you understand what it means to have shelter, not just a roof, but a refuge. You notice a small wooden bench beside the wall. The surface is smooth from years of use, worn down by countless hands and tired bodies seeking rest after long days of chopping wood, tending animals, or trudging through snow. When you sit, the bench creaks softly beneath you, welcoming your weight. Outside, the wind rises again, striking the walls with a distant, muffled thud. But the impact feels harmless here, like a gentle reminder rather than a threat. This wooden home, humble as it is, was crafted with the full knowledge of that wind's strength. It has stood through seasons of frostbite, storms that buried entire fields, and nights where wolves prowled only a few meters away. Yet here, within these walls, the cold is only an echo. Here, you are safe. You stretch your hands toward the warmth of the hearth, letting the fire's glow paint your skin gold. The flames crackle and pop, sending tiny sparks upward where they fade into the smoky air. The sound is rhythmic, soothing, a heartbeat for the home. It fills the silence with something steady, something alive. As you sit there, you begin to see this house not as a simple structure of logs and straw, but as a living thing, the spine made of timber, the veins carved into the grain, the breath rising with every plume of smoke. It creaks as the temperature shifts. It hums when the wind pushes against it. It shelters you the way a great old creature might shelter its young. You lean back slightly, letting your shoulders rest against the sturdy wall. The wood is warm now, holding the heat from the fire. Through it, you can feel the faint vibrations of the storm outside, powerless to touch you. The thought brings a soft calm over you. This home was built to endure, and now it endures for you. The fire burns brighter for a moment, illuminating the room, the heavy table carved by hand, the woven baskets filled with winter vegetables, the clay pots resting in the corner, the furs piled near the sleeping area. Everything here exists with purpose. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is decorative. Survival has shaped every object, every decision, every inch of this space. And as you sit in the dim glow, you realize something else. This is only the beginning of understanding how medieval Poland faced winter. Because the house around you is more than shelter, it is a testament to the resourcefulness, discipline, and quiet resilience of its people. Outside, winter waits. But in here, you belong. As you look upward, the roof catches your attention. From the outside, it appears almost like a golden fur coat, resting over the house, thick, uneven, and warm. This is thatch, woven from long stalks of straw, harvested during summer and dried until the sun baked every drop of moisture away. You touch the underside of the roof where it slopes low over your head. The straw is tightly packed, layer upon layer, forming a barrier that snow cannot easily penetrate. When winter storms sweep across the plains, snow piles on top in deep drifts, but the thatch holds firm. The villagers know how to tilt the roof at just the right angle so the snow slides off before it becomes too heavy. Inside, you can hear the faint whisper of snow landing gently on the thatch. Soft, muffled, almost comforting. The thatched roof is more than a cover. It is a shield, one woven by many hands. Women twist bundles of straw with careful precision. Men climb wooden ladders to secure the layers tightly with braided cords. Children pass up fresh bundles, laughing even as the cold stings their cheeks. In this way, the roof becomes a symbol of the whole village, layered, intertwined, and strong because of its unity. The longer you stay beneath that golden roof, the more you begin to understand that it is not simply an architectural choice. It is a living memory of summers past. Every stalk of straw once swayed under a warm sun, long before the frost claimed the fields. Each bundle represents days when villagers walked barefoot through ripened fields, cutting grain in rhythmic swings while dragonflies danced above the stubble. Standing here beneath it now, you can almost sense the ghosts of warm winds trapped somewhere in those layers, like a whisper of seasons forgotten under the weight of winter. You let your fingers trail along one of the tight bundles. The straw is surprisingly firm, every stalk angled downward to channel water and snow away. The roof is built steep, sharply slanted like a protective hood, ensuring that nothing, not snow, not rain, not sleet, lingers long enough to seep inside. Even the sound of it responding to the storm feels intentional. The muted hiss as snow meets straw, the faint scritch of wind brushing across its surface, the gentle, padded thumps as drifting flakes land and settle. It is like listening to winter from behind a soft curtain. As your eyes adjust, you notice another detail. The underside of the thatch glows faintly in the firelight. Small golden flecks shimmer within the tightly woven straw, giving the entire roof a warm, honey-colored halo. Even in the depths of winter, when the world outside is white and lifeless, the roof holds a memory of the harvest, a fragment of sunshine preserved through human hands. You sit down on a small wooden stool, tilting your head back so the roof fills your vision. Above you, layers upon layers form a dense pattern, thicker than any modern insulation, carefully compressed until it almost resembles fur. Each layer has its own purpose. The outermost to shield against wind, the middle to trap heat, and the deepest to muffle noise and regulate airflow. But what strikes you most is how human it feels. You can see where someone's hand left a slight imprint in the straw. You can see tufts tied with different kinds of twine, flax, hemp, wool, depending on who contributed that part. You can see sections slightly darker, where rain once soaked it during a storm years ago. In a way, the roof is a tapestry of the village itself, a record of the people who built it and the winters they faced together. A memory flashes. Not long before the first snow, you stood in the field alongside the villagers. The sun was lower, but the days were still warm. Women gathered bundles of straw, shaking them free of dust and seeds. Children bundled them into armfuls, carrying them to the men on the ladders. The thatching master, an older man with hands as tough as leather, wove the bundles into the roof with swift, practiced movements. Each twist of his wrist, each tightening pull of twine, carried decades of knowledge. Winter will test every weakness, he told you, wiping sweat from his brow. It always does. So we give it nothing to work with. You remember nodding, even though you didn't fully understand then. Now, beneath this roof, you do. As the fire crackles behind you, you listen. At first, you hear only the faint whisper of falling snow. Then, gradually, other sounds emerge. The distant howl of wind traveling across open plains, the soft creak of timber contracting in the cold, the subtle flutter of loose straw at the edge of the eaves. The roof absorbs it all, turning what could be frightening into something gentle. A lullaby of winter. A promise that the world outside may be harsh, but you are sheltered here. You pull your coat a little tighter around your shoulders and imagine the storm from the outside. Snow would be swirling violently, wrapping the house in a thick blanket of white. Wind would swing the trees with wild force. Animals would huddle in barns or forest dens. The world would be raw and wild, as unforgiving as an old god. But from inside the home, that wilderness becomes distant, a landscape you observe rather than endure. That is the power of this roof. You stand again and step closer, noticing the subtle scent rising from the thatch. It smells faintly of dried grass, of late summer warmth, of harvest fields where the earth baked under the Sunday. In a land where winter can swallow hope as easily as it swallows fields, that smell is grounding a connection to life even when the world sleeps. Your fingers graze the underside once more. You feel warmth radiating back, not in a hot, obvious way, but in a slow, steady hum. The firelight warms the lower layers, and the straw traps the heat, letting it spread through the room like breath. The house seems to exhale around you, a slow, living sigh. You walk toward the edge of the roof near the wall and notice something else, a delicate pattern of frost forming on the inside of the thatch. The frost glitters like powdered silver where cold air tries to slip through but fails. The straw blocks most of the chill, but even the tiny traces that sneak in transform into beauty rather than danger. Sparkling crystals cling to the golden fibers like stars caught in a web. You reach out gently, brushing the frost with a fingertip. It melts instantly, leaving a tiny bead of water on your skin. The contrast of cold and warmth sends a shiver through you, not of fear, but of awareness. This roof holds back winter, but it also lets you glimpse its edge. It teaches you to respect the cold without surrendering to it. A sudden memory from earlier in the day rises. An elderly woman had placed a fresh bundle of straw into your hands, guiding you toward the house being repaired. "You must learn this," she told you, her voice low but warm. "No one survives winter alone, not even the strongest. We survive because we build together." When you tried weaving the bundle into place, your fingers clumsy, she laughed softly and said, "Even the poorest thatch works better than pride. Ask for help, child. Winter is long." You didn't fully understand her meaning then. You do now. The roof above you is not just straw. It is community woven into shelter. Effort layered upon effort. Kade layered upon kade. You walk slowly toward the window, a small square hole covered with a stretched animal bladder that lets in a faint, milky light. Outside, snow falls thicker now. You watch it drift and swirl, piling softly on the roof. With each passing minute, the house seems to grow quieter, as if the world outside is fading into white silence. You imagine the snow weighing down the roof, and instinctively your eyes drift upward again. You see how the steep pitch of the thatch refuses to let the weight settle. Snow slides off in subtle waves, falling to the ground in soft, whispering cascades. In the dim light, it looks almost like the roof is shrugging, gently rejecting the burden. This living movement reminds you once more that the roof is active, adapting, breathing, protecting, not passive, but intentional. You return to the fire and sit beside it, letting the glow warm your face. The house feels smaller now, cozier, like the embrace of someone who has carried you through storms before. You close your eyes, listening to the sounds above. Tap, whisper, slide, tap. A rhythm older than your life. A rhythm older than Poland itself. You try to imagine what it must be like for villagers born under such a roof, children who grow up hearing the muffled song of snow their entire lives. They must feel winter as a companion, not an enemy. Perhaps that is why they work so diligently, so calmly, when preparing the roof in autumn. They do not fight winter, they negotiate with it. And here, under this sloping, golden canopy, you feel that lesson settling into your bones. To survive winter is not to resist it violently, but to build wisely enough that it cannot harm you. The fire crackles again, sending a soft plume of sparks upward. You watch them rise toward the roof, swirling gently before fading into smoke. The light flickers across the underside of the thatch, making it glow like molten gold for a brief second. The color is warm, soothing, ancient. You lean back, letting your head rest against the wall, and close your eyes again. The house creaks softly, adjusting to the cold. The wind groans outside. Snow whispers against the roof. And through it all, the thatch remains steady, a loyal guardian. In the quiet, you feel something shift inside you. Not a dramatic revelation, but a slow, gentle understanding. In this world, strength is not loud. It is not sharp. It is not proud. Strength is the thatched roof patient, humble, woven with care. Strength is the way the villagers build together, step by step, hand by hand. Strength is the warmth that lingers in the rafters long after the fire dims. You breathe in the scent of straw, smoke, and winter air slipping through the tiniest cracks. The warmth around you settles deeply, calming your thoughts like falling snow. The roof above you holds firm season after season, storm after storm, night after night. And as you drift deeper into the soft glow of the hearth, you realize that this roof, this home, this moment, is teaching you how medieval Poland truly survived its long, unforgiving winters, not by conquering the cold, but by outlasting it together. As you study the walls more closely, you notice something else. The spaces between the logs are not empty. They're stuffed full of soft material, moss, straw, and clay pressed together until they create a natural insulation. The villagers call it wypełnienie, but to you, it feels almost magical. During late summer, before autumn rains begin, you joined the villagers in collecting moss from the forest. The ground was cool and damp beneath your boots, and the moss peeled away like thick, soft carpets. You stuffed your bag full of it, knowing that when winter came, those green cushions would hold precious warm air inside your home. Now, as you press your fingers into the sealed joints, the mixture is surprisingly firm. Clay dried hard on the outside, but beneath it, the moss remains springy and warm. It keeps the cold wind from slipping inside. It absorbs moisture. It even muffles the sounds of the storm. When the wind howls across the plains at night, you hear it beating against the logs, rattling the door, prying at the shutters, but it does not enter. You are safe behind the village's handmade armor. This is not the work of architects or engineers. It is the work of people who learned every lesson winter ever taught them and remembered. You lean in closer, brushing your palm along the narrow seams between the logs, and the texture changes beneath your fingertips. The clay is cool and slightly grainy, firm on the surface where it has hardened into a protective shell. But when you press just a little harder, you can feel the faint give beneath it, the softness of moss hidden inside, a quiet, secret layer of warmth waiting patiently for the coldest nights. You think back to the summer afternoons spent gathering that moss. The memory arrives so vividly, it almost warms the room further. You remember kneeling under the thick canopy of the forest, feeling the shade wrap around you like a green cloak. Shafts of sunlight pierced through the leaves, illuminating patches of moss in golden light. The forest floor smelled of earth, pine needles, and damp wood. When you pressed your hand into the moss, it felt cool and vibrant, as if holding the memory of rain. You didn't realize then just how powerful those soft tufts would become. Now, inside this winter home, you do. You slide your hand across the seam again and imagine the countless moments that built this insulation. Villagers kneeling beside streams, children filling baskets with moss, elders mixing clay with water until it reached the right consistency, pliable but strong. You picture the process of packing the mixture into place, layer by layer, finger by finger, smoothing the seams until not a sliver of wind could find its way in. This handmade armor feels more personal than any wall of stone or plaster. It feels like trust. You step back a little, letting your eyes trace the line where one log rests atop another. The clay filling is slightly darker than the wood, forming bold lines that remind you of stitches in a thick winter coat. The house feels sewn together not in a delicate way, but in a solid, anchored fashion, like a garment built to withstand storms. You lift a candle from a wooden shelf and hold it close to the wall. The flame flickers softly, casting warm light over the surfaces. In the glow, you can see tiny flecks of straw embedded within the clay, catching the light like faint threads of gold. The straw helps bind everything together, preventing the clay from cracking as temperatures rise and fall through the long season. Even these tiny details speak of intention, of a deep understanding of how winter works its way into every weakness. You run your fingers along the seam one more time, gently pushing inward. The mixture yields ever so slightly before springing back to shape. It feels alive in its own quiet way, a blend of forest and earth and human hands, holding its shape like a muscle tense to protect. Outside, the wind suddenly rises, howling low and long across the plains. It hits the house with a soft, thudding pressure that sends vibrations through the logs. The shutters rattle faintly, snowflakes scratch at the window, but the sound that reaches you feels distant, softened, as if passing through layers of thick wool. The house absorbs the storm. The moss muffles the sound. The clay blocks the wind. The straw traps the warmth. And you stand in the center of it all, wrapped in the comfort of a structure that knows exactly what it's protecting you from. You take a slow breath, inhaling the faint scent of dried earth mixed with the warm aroma of wood smoke drifting from the hearth. The two smells blend into something grounding, something that feels like the essence of shelter itself. Then, you crouch to examine the lower logs, running your hand along them with curiosity. These sections, too, are sealed with the same mixture, packed tightly with practiced precision. You notice small cracks in the clay where it has dried, but the softness beneath remains intact, still holding warm air like a secret promise. Every crack, every jagged line, every uneven lump tells a story not of neglect, but of adaptation. Clay shifts as the wood expands and contracts with changes in temperature. The moss breathes with the seasons. The walls are not rigid, they live with the weather. As you touch one of the cracks, you feel an unexpected warmth behind it. Not fire warmth, but the subtle warmth of your breath and the heat from within the home, trapped and held steady by this natural insulation. It reminds you just how thin the margins of survival can be in winter, how a single draft could freeze water in a bucket overnight, or send a child into fever, or extinguish the fragile comfort of sleep. But here, behind these walls, the threat stays on the other side. You let your hand rest on the wood for a moment. The log feels solid, ancient, patient. You imagine the tree it came from standing tall in a crowded forest, pushing its roots deep into the frozen earth, rising year after year toward the pale winter Sunday. That strength now surrounds you. A late afternoon memory drifts back. An older villager once showed you how to check the seams for damage. He pressed his ear against the logs and listened, really listened, to the way wind whispered against the house. "A home speaks," he had said. "Winter speaks louder. If you hear a hiss, you patch it. If you feel a draft, you seal it. Winter wastes no time showing you your mistakes." Now, hearing the storm push against the walls, you know what he meant. You stand up and slowly move along the wall, placing your hand at each seam as you walk. The surface is cool to the touch, but never icy. Warmth lingers just beneath, held safely inside by the layers of moss and clay. As the fire continues to crackle behind you, the insulation works with it, trapping heat, letting none escape. You pause where two logs meet at a corner. Here, the clay is thicker, packed into a triangular wedge to reinforce a natural weakness. You marvel at how intuitive it all is, how each gap is filled differently depending on its shape, how every crevice is treated with care. The villagers knew every inch of this home, every breath of wind that could try to sneak inside. You raise your candle higher, illuminating the curve of the wall overhead. The seams stretch upward toward the roof, tightening as they approach the heavy beams. You notice how the wall transitions seamlessly into the thatched roof above, creating a continuous cocoon of protection. No modern insulation could replicate this, not the texture, not the atmosphere, not the soul. Because that's what this is. A home with a soul. You feel it in the way it holds warmth, in the way it shushes the storm, in the way it encases you like a careful embrace. You step back toward the center of the room, settling again near the hearth. The flames cast a soft, pulsating glow across the walls, highlighting the texture of the seams, light and shadow dancing across ridges of clay, dips of moss, strands of straw. The interplay feels almost hypnotic, like watching waves move slowly across sand. Outside, the wind roars again, but here, the sound becomes gentle, rounded, softened, filtered through the thick armor of the house. With every passing moment, the insulation proves itself. Where cold tries to pierce, the moss resists. Where wind pushes, the clay holds firm. Where silence could feel vast and frightening, the straw muffles the emptiness into something gentle. You wrap your arms loosely around yourself and breathe in, then out, slowly, deeply. The warmth settles deeper, sinking into your bones. The storm becomes a distant hum, and beneath these walls of pine and birch, under these seams bound with forest moss and summer straw, you understand something profoundly simple. You are protected because someone prepared for you long before you arrived. Hands you never met gathered moss for this insulation. Voices you never heard mixed the clay. Feet you never followed trod the forest paths in search of straw. Their work shields you now. Their lessons hold you now. Their memory warms you now. You place your hand once more on the seam, feeling the strength of it, the warmth behind it, the patience within it. Winter cannot reach you here. Not through these walls, not through this armor shaped by human hands and forest gifts. Inside this handmade fortress, you endure because they endured. In the center of the home, you find the hearth, a low pit carved directly into the ground, ringed by stones blackened by years of fire. There is no chimney, not yet. This is the old way. Smoke rises slowly toward the ceiling, curling and drifting before escaping through a small opening in the roof. At first, the smoke makes your eyes sting, but then you notice its purpose. The smoke fills the air with warmth. It dries your clothes when you hang them on wooden racks. It repels insects that try to hide in the rafters. It preserves strips of meat hung above the fire, turning them dark and smoky with time. The hearth crackles softly, throwing a steady glow against the wooden walls. As you crouch beside it, you feel heat radiating into your hands and feet, not fierce, not overwhelming, but deep and lasting. This fire burns long into the night, tended by each member of the household in turn. No one lets it go out. The smell of burning birch wood lingers in the air, a smell that feels both sharp and comforting. Somewhere nearby, a pot hangs over a fire, warming stew for a family you haven't met yet. You feel small in this world, but also strangely welcomed, as if the land itself is acknowledging your presence. Winter here is not only cold, it is lonely. It isolates villages, separates families, and steals sound from the air. Hunger is a constant shadow. Outside, the world may be ice and silence, but inside this wooden home with its pine walls, its straw roof, its moss-plugged seams, and its loyal fire, you breathe with ease. The house holds steady. The fire holds steady. And so do you. The longer you sit beside the fire, the more you begin to understand that the hearth is not merely a tool, it is a companion, a presence, a quiet guardian that watches over the home with unwavering devotion. The flames flicker gently, never rising too high, never burning too fast, as if they too have learned the art of patience required to survive a medieval winter. You extend your palms toward the warmth again, and the heat radiates upward, soaking slowly into your skin, your wrists, your elbows. Your breath softens. The cold trapped inside your coat loosens its grip. Even the tension in your shoulders melts away, replaced by a soft comfort that settles deep in your muscles. Behind the crackle of wood, you hear the faintest sound, a low hum, almost like breathing. It's the steady rhythm of burning timber, the way the embers shift and settle beneath the flame. Each pop, each hiss sounds like a quiet heartbeat, syncing with your own. The hearth speaks in murmurs, but its meaning is clear. You are safe, you are warm, you are home for the night. You watch the smoke spiral upward in lazy curls, tracing slow circles toward the small opening in the roof. In the dim light, the smoke forms soft ribbons, twisting and untwisting like threads of gray silk. When it reaches the rafters, it lingers for a moment, clinging gently to the wooden beams before escaping into the winter sky. It leaves behind a faint scent, earthy, sweet, grounding, that becomes part of everything in the room. The chairs, the blankets, the hair of the children sleeping near the walls, your own clothes. Nothing in the house is untouched by the fire. Nothing survives without it. Nearby, a clay pot hangs from a sturdy iron hook, suspended above the hottest part of the coals. You can hear a gentle bubbling sound inside a stew of cabbage, mushrooms, and herbs slowly thickening. The aroma drifts across the room, mixing with the smoky air. It smells simple, humble, and yet so comforting that you feel your stomach tighten with hunger. Another pot sits nearby, filled with water collected earlier in the day from beneath the ice-covered well. Now, warmed by the fire, it will be used for washing hands, cleaning wooden bowls, and filling the night with soft steam that keeps lips and skin from cracking in the cold dryness. You look around and notice how everything in the home is arranged with the hearth at its center. Low wooden stools for sitting, a table for preparing food, rough woven blankets and animal hides spread near it so the children can sleep in its warmth. A row of damp boots left to dry. Even the family dog, curled up peacefully in the corner, has chosen the spot closest to the fire. You realize then that the hearth does more than warm the home. It shapes the home. It tells the family where to gather, where to rest, where to store food, where to hang damp clothes. The fire becomes the axis around which all life turns in the winter months. Without it, the home would lose its purpose, its warmth, its breath. Each log is chosen carefully. Too wet, and it hisses and smokes. Too dry, and it burns too fast. The villagers know the difference by touch alone. They choose each piece as if choosing the fuel for life itself, because in truth they are. You reach toward the pile, taking a log in your hands. The wood feels cold at first, but not unpleasantly so. You brush a bit of bark off and gently place the log on the fire. Each log is chosen carefully. Too wet, and it hisses and smokes. Too dry, and it burns too fast. The villagers know the difference by touch alone. They choose each piece as if choosing the fuel for life itself, because in truth, they are. You reach toward the pile, taking a log in your hands. The wood feels cold at first, but not unpleasantly so. You brush a bit of bark off and gently place the log on the fire. It catches slowly, glowing at the edges, then ignites with a soft whoosh that blends into the already crackling flames. The sound is subtle, but adding wood feels intimate, like participating in a ritual as old as humanity. For a moment, the fire brightens, illuminating the entire room with a soft orange glow. The walls, the rafters, the hanging meats, the pots, everything glows like it has been gilded. Even the frost on the window catches the light and sparkles faintly. Minutes pass like drifting snowflakes, slow, silent, gentle. When you open your eyes again, you notice an elderly man sitting across the room. His posture is relaxed, his hands resting on his knees. He gives you a small nod, not a greeting, but a kind of acknowledgement, like one guardian of the fire recognizing another. Without a word, he leans forward and pokes the embers with a long iron rod, gently stirring them until a brighter glow returns. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. Minutes pass like drifting snowflakes, slow, silent, gentle. When you open your eyes again, you notice an elderly man sitting across the room. His posture is relaxed, his hands resting on his knees. He gives you a small nod, not a greeting, but a kind of acknowledgement, like one guardian of the fire recognizing another. Without a word, he leans forward and pokes the embers with a long iron rod, gently stirring them until a brighter glow returns. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The fire speaks for both of you. You realize then why no one ever lets the flame go out. It isn't just about heat. It's about presence, the warm reassurance that even on the darkest night, when the wind rattles the shutters and the cold hunts for cracks in the walls, there is still life in the home. there is still something bright, something living, something human. A house with no fire is a house already surrendered to winter. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders and let your gaze drift to the ceiling, where smoke leaves faint, ghost-like trails. The rafters are dark with the residue of countless fires, stained with years of smoke that has settled into the wood. It gives the house a strange beauty, a softness, a quiet depth. The beams look almost like old rivers, etched by time, flowing toward the small opening where the smoke escapes. As the fire continues to warm you, drowsiness pulls gently at your thoughts. The warmth sinks into your chest, making each breath slower, deeper. The flickering light steadies your heartbeat. The crackle becomes a lullaby. Even the cold outside seems to fade away, shrinking beneath the steady pulse of heat. You stretch your legs toward the fire and feel the warmth gather around your boots. The heat travels upward, sinking into your calves, your knees, your thighs. You feel it settling deep in your core, comforting and protective, like a hand resting on your back. You think of the villagers tending the fire through the night, taking turns rising from their blankets to place new logs, stir the embers, or close the wooden cover slightly to conserve heat. You imagine them moving through the dim room with quiet steps, their shadows dancing on the walls, their breath visible in the cold air. Winter tries to claim everything in this land, but the fire pushes back. It holds the line, and now, sitting here in the warm glow, you feel yourself becoming part of that ancient resistance, one human heart, warmed by one ancient flame, protecting one fragile home against the vast cold outside. You reach a hand out toward the fire again, letting the warmth gather on your skin. A soft sigh escapes you, unbidden but welcome. The hearth has a way of coaxing exhaustion to the surface, showing you how much tension you carried, how much cold lingered in your bones. Now, the warmth replaces it, slowly, faithfully, completely. Outside, winter tightens its grip on the land. Snow deepens, wind sharpens, darkness draws longer shadows. But none of it reaches you, because here, inside this wooden home, the fire burns. And as long as it burns, so do you. And you allow yourself to rest, knowing that this ancient flame, this old guardian, will keep watch for you through the winter night. You step outside just for a moment, and the cold snaps at your face, instantly sharp, biting, quick to remind you how fragile warmth can be in this land. The air feels thinner, the sky heavier, but beside the house, towering stacks of firewood rise like silent guardians, protecting you long before the storm ever arrives. And you allow yourself to rest, knowing that this ancient flame, this old guardian, will keep watch for you through the winter night. You step outside just for a moment, and the cold snaps at your face, instantly sharp, biting, quick to remind you how fragile warmth can be in this land. The air feels thinner, the sky heavier, but beside the house, towering stacks of firewood rise like silent guardians, protecting you long before the storm ever arrives. You walk toward them and lay your hand on a thick log of pine. Even now, you can still smell the sap, faint and sweet beneath the bark. Pine catches fire quickly, eager to burn, eager to give its warmth. Birch, stacked nearby, feels different beneath your palm, smoother, paler, almost silver in the morning light. Birch burns slower, steadier, offering long hours of dependable heat. You pick up one piece of each, testing their weight. Pine is lighter, almost impatient. Birch is heavier, its strength locked deep inside. You realize then why the villagers mix both types in their fires. Winter demands balance, of flame that starts fast, then lasts long. All through summer and autumn, you helped gather these logs. You remember the sound of axes striking wood, the smell of sawdust drifting on warm air, the rhythmic thud of logs splitting beneath practiced hands. Back then, it felt like hard labor. Now you see it differently. This wood is not merely fuel. It is time, hours of warmth stored in each piece, hours of protection against nights that freeze breath in the dark. You stack another piece on the pile inside the house, close to the hearth, and feel a quiet pride bloom in your chest. Every log you touch is a promise you made to your future self. You will not face winter unprepared. You shift the pile slightly, nudging a few logs toward the hearth so they'll be ready when the flames grow hungry again. The wood thuds softly against the packed earth floor, settling into place like pieces of a puzzle. Each log has its place, each one destined for a specific night, a cold dawn, a stormy evening, a moment when warmth feels far too distant and the fire must be fed quickly. You pause and rest your hands atop the stack, feeling the cold seeping from the wood. Some pieces are frosted lightly on the edges where snow brushed them on your way inside. Others still carry the faint warmth of your touch. You watch your breath drift upward in soft white clouds, dissolving into the air like thin ghosts. Outside, the wind lifts for a moment, carrying with it the soft sound of snow brushing against the walls of the house. It reminds you of all the nights still ahead, long, deep, and cold. Winter in this land is not a passing visitor, but a force that settles in, stretching itself comfortably across the months. And yet, as you look at the firewood around you, you feel calm rather than afraid. This is why you gathered so much. Not from fear, but from respect. You crouch beside the stack and trace your hand down the grain of a birch log. The smooth surface feels almost silky under your palm. The rings inside each piece mark the years the tree endured. Summers of heat, winters of frost, storms that cracked branches and winds that bent trunks. The strength of the tree is now your strength. Its resilience is now yours. For a moment, you imagine the villagers in midsummer, wiping sweat from their brows as they worked beneath the blazing Sunday. They didn't split wood for glory. They did it for nights like the one ahead, nights when the cold slips through the cracks, searching for the smallest weakness. You were there with them, arms aching, hands blistered, but each strike of your axe was a gift to your winter self. You stand again, lifting another pine log and holding it to your chest. Pine has a different scent from birch, sharper, resinous, carrying the memory of forests that hum with insects and the whisper of wind through high branches. It reminds you of warmer days, of buzzing meadows, of sunlight filtering through the leaves. As you breathe it in, the memory fills you with quiet comfort. You bring the pine inside and kneel near the hearth. The fire is still strong, flames licking the sides of a half-charred log, embers glowing like scattered red jewels. The warmth on your face is immediate and soothing. You place the new log beside the fire to dry further, arranging it carefully so that it will catch evenly when its time comes. Then you sit back on your heels and observe the fire, watching how it consumes the wood not violently, but with a patient, steady hunger. Pine crackles eagerly when it burns, filling the air with tiny snaps and sparks. Birch burns smoother, more evenly, glowing with a steady flame that warms the room in deep, lingering waves. The villagers always remind you, a good fire is a conversation between quick heat and lasting heat. Now you finally understand them. You reach forward and adjust a glowing ember with a stick, shifting it just so to improve the draft. The flames respond instantly, brightening as if grateful for your attention. You lean back against the wooden wall, letting the warmth wash across your body. The firewood crackles softly, whispering stories of forests, summers, and storms long past. Each sound is soothing, a reminder that this fire and the wood that fuels it is part of something much larger than this moment. A part of the land, a part of the people, a part of you. Your hands, still warm from the fire, rest loosely in your lap. You breathe slowly, deeply, letting the heat seep into your chest. You lean back against the wooden wall, letting the warmth wash across your body. The firewood crackles softly, whispering stories of forests, summers, and storms long past. Each sound is soothing, a reminder that this fire and the wood that fuels it is part of something much larger than this moment. A part of the land, a part of the people, a part of you. Your hands, still warm from the fire, rest loosely in your lap. You breathe slowly, deeply, letting the heat seep into your chest. The fear of the cold, the sharp sting that greeted you outside, fades into memory. For now, you are protected. For now, you are warm. But more than warmth, you feel something else blooming quietly inside you. Gratitude for every log split, every branch gathered, every pine and birch tree that offered itself to the fire. This wood is not merely fuel. It is a bridge between seasons. It is a pact between you and the land. It is a promise kept. Outside, the storm gathers strength. Snow thickens, wind sharpens, darkness deepens. But your firewood stands ready, your hearth burns strong, and your home holds against the cold. And as you sit there, breathing the scent of pine and smoke, you understand a truth that every medieval Polish villager knew well. Survival is built long before winter arrives. Warmth is earned in summer, and tonight you live because you prepared. When you step back toward the house, the snow crunches softly beneath your boots. Each step leaves a clean imprint on the white ground, as if winter itself is recording your return. The wind brushes lightly against your cheek, cold enough to sting, but not strong enough to steal your breath. A few flakes drift lazily from the sky, catching the faint light of dusk like specks of falling silver. As you walk, the birch log in your arms grows heavier, or perhaps your arms grow tired not from weakness, but from memory. Their shadows stretch across the snow in long, quiet shapes. You feel an unexpected warmth, not physical, but emotional, rising in your chest. Those stacks are more than preparation. They are a promise, proof of foresight, evidence of survival. Somewhere nearby, a horse snorts, its breath rising in a cloud that floats upward before dissolving into the pale sky. From another cottage, a woman's laughter carries softly over the snowy air, gentle, almost distant, as if winter itself muffles every sound into something tender. The village feels still, calm, sheltered, not defeated by winter but ready for it. You continue your slow walk back. The log presses against your chest, leaving flecks of bark on your coat. You shift it slightly, adjusting your grip, and the rough bark brushes your fingertips with the memory of summer heat. From another cottage, a woman's laughter carries softly over the snowy air, gentle, almost distant, as if winter itself muffles every sound into something tender. The village feels still, calm, sheltered, not defeated by winter, but ready for it. You continue your slow walk back. The log presses against your chest, leaving flecks of bark on your coat. You shift it slightly, adjusting your grip, and the rough bark brushes your fingertips with the memory of summer heat. Even now, even in this freezing moment, the wood holds a faint echo of warmth from the season it was cut. Perhaps that is why the villagers always say that summer lives inside firewood. When you reach the house, you push the door open with your shoulder, letting a brief gust of winter air slip inside. The warmth from the hearth rushes out to greet you instantly, wrapping you in a wave of comfort that makes your skin prickle. The wood thumps softly, joining its companions, each piece waiting for its turn to keep the cold at bay. For a moment, you rest your hand on the log, feeling the chills slowly fade as the surrounding heat begins to seep into it. You take in the space around you, noticing details you overlooked before. The careful stacking of logs near the fire, the woven baskets filled with kindling, the hook where tools hang neatly, ready for use. Every corner of the room reflects preparation, the quiet, deliberate kind that only comes from communities that have survived countless winters. A sense of gratitude settles in your chest, not just for the firewood, but for the knowledge, the cooperation, and the shared labor behind it. You sit on a low stool, letting the warmth of the hearth brush your face. Your skin tingles as it thaws, and your breath grows slower, deeper. The birch log beside you seems to glow faintly in the firelight, as if already dreaming of the moment it will join the flames and give its life to warmth. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sounds wash over you. The soft crackling of burning pine, the distant whistle of wind trying to find a way inside, the steady rhythm of the house settling into the night. The warmth reaches deeper into your limbs, easing tension you didn't know you held. Then, softly, almost shyly, the house sighs with you. A creak in the beams, a shift in the logs, a whisper of smoke curling upward. It feels alive. It feels like home. You lean back, hands resting loosely on your knees, and breathe in the scent of pine smoke and warm earth. Outside, winter may stretch endlessly across the land. But here, beside your carefully gathered firewood, you feel untouched by its bitterness. Because you prepared. Because the villagers taught you how. And because this home, this fire, honors the work you did when the world was warm. Tonight, as the flames burn steady and the woodlot sleeps beneath a blanket of snow, you feel the quiet truth of survival settle into your bones. This roof holds back winter, but it also lets you glimpse its edge. It teaches you to respect the cold without surrendering to it. A sudden memory from earlier in the day rises. An elderly woman had placed a fresh bundle of straw into your hands, guiding you toward the house being repaired. "You must learn this," she told you, her voice low but warm. "No one survives winter alone, not even the strongest. We survive because we build together." Tonight, as the flames burn steady and the woodlot sleeps beneath a blanket of snow, you feel the quiet truth of survival settle into your bones. Every step you took in summer is the warmth you hold tonight. Inside the house again, you notice the shadows deepening along the walls. Night arrives early in winter, stealing sunlight before the day ever feels complete. Without the hearth, the room would sink into darkness. But tonight, you need more than just firelight. The small flame stretches itself, reaching into corners that would otherwise disappear into darkness. On another shelf sits a clay oil lamp, filled with tallow and fitted with a wick made from twisted linen. You lift it carefully, feeling the weight of the oil shift inside. These lamps are the quiet stars of winter nights, burning slowly even when storms rage outside. Sometimes, during the coldest hours, animal fat is even used for heat. In a land with no beeswax to spare, these candles become the eyes of the night. You strike a spark and set the wick ablaze. The flame wavers, then steadies, casting a warm golden glow that dances across the room. A small light, but in winter, even a small light feels like a blessing. You place the candle in a simple iron holder and watch how its flame shapes the shadows. The walls seem to soften. The room feels larger, safer. In the silence that follows, you understand something important, something that every villager here knows deeply. Winter survival does not happen in winter. It is earned long before the first snow falls. It is in the swinging of axes under the summer Sunday, in the carrying of logs with sore shoulders, in the careful stacking of wood to dry, in the shared labor that binds a community together. A small bowl of tallow with a steady wick becomes a makeshift furnace, just enough to keep fingers warm during tasks requiring precision, like mending clothes or preparing herbs. You touch the lamp gently and whisper a silent thanks. Light here is not decoration. It is survival. You set the oil lamp back onto the shelf, and its faint glow joins the candle's warm circle of light. Together, the two small flames soften the edges of the room, turning rough wood into warm amber, turning the dark corners into gentle shadows rather than places of fear. The house seems to breathe easier in their presence, and so do you. As the night deepens, you realize how heavy the darkness truly is beyond the walls. Through the thin window covering, you glimpse only a sliver of the world outside. Snow drifting silently, endlessly downward, blurring the horizon into a pale haze. It's surprising how such a small flame can warm the air immediately around it. Your fingers hover over it for a moment, absorbing the heat. Then you draw your hand back, letting the warmth sink into your skin. The flickering light makes patterns dance across the wooden walls. Shadows stretch and bend, rising and falling as the flame shifts. The wooden beams overhead glow like darkened honey. The clay seams between the logs appear smoother, softer, almost alive in the dim glow. Everything feels different in candlelight, more intimate, more serene. You notice a small wooden stool beside the hearth and pull it closer. When you sit, the light from the candle falls across your hands, illuminating the faint red of the cold still lingering in your knuckles. You rub your palms together slowly, letting the warmth from the fire and the candle work together to ease the stiffness. Then your eyes drift again to the shelf where the oil lamp rests. Your fingers hover over it for a moment, absorbing the heat. Then you draw your hand back, letting the warmth sink into your skin. The flickering light makes patterns dance across the wooden walls. Shadows stretch and bend, rising and falling as the flame shifts. The wooden beams overhead glow like darkened honey. The clay seams between the logs appear smoother, softer, almost alive in the dim glow. Everything feels different in candlelight, more intimate, more serene. The oil lamp burns differently from the candle. Its flame is slower, deeper, almost meditative. It sways gently but does not flutter as much. A soft halo forms around it, glowing low and warm, painting everything nearby in tones of bronze and gold. You place the lamp on the floor beside your stool. With both candle and lamp burning, the shadows shift once again. Now the room feels warmer, fuller, as if a second presence has joined the first. The light grows thicker, and the darkness retreats a little farther. You exhale without realizing you were holding your breath. It becomes clearer to you now why the villagers call these small lights stars of the home. On winter nights, when the wind moans through the fields and wolves howl in the distance, these tiny flames become anchors, preventing fear from creeping in with the cold. The wood thumps softly, joining its companions, each piece waiting for its turn to keep the cold at bay. For a moment, you rest your hand on the log, feeling the chill slowly fade as the surrounding heat begins to seep into it. You take in the space around you, noticing details you overlooked before: the careful stacking of logs near the fire, the woven baskets filled with kindling, the hook where tools hang neatly, ready for use. You carry the candle slowly around the room, checking the corners where shadows gather. The light uncovers everything: the woven mats on the floor, the dried herbs hanging from the rafters, the small wooden chest where winter clothes are stored, the sleeping furs piled neatly in the corner. The simple act of seeing these things, of knowing they are there, feels comforting. Light in winter is more than illumination. It is orientation, a way to remember where you stand in the world. You lift the candle again, bringing it closer to inspect the way its flame rises. It reminds you of something the village elder once said: light is memory. Every flame remembers the warmth that made it. You didn't understand then, but now, as darkness crowds the world outside, you do. You carry the candle slowly around the room, checking the corners where shadows gather. You lean back, hands resting loosely on your knees, and breathe in the scent of pine smoke and warm earth. Outside, winter may stretch endlessly across the land, but here, beside your carefully gathered firewood, you feel untouched by its bitterness. Because you prepared. Because the villagers taught you how. And because this home, this fire, honors the work you did when the world was warm. Tonight, as you sit between the candle and the lamp, you feel a bit of that same comfort, the sense that even when winter presses against every wall, even when darkness stretches endlessly beyond the windows, you have brought your own stars into the night. Your eyes drift to the ceiling again. Smoke from the hearth rises in pale ribbons, glimmering faintly in the warm light. Tiny sparks glow briefly before fading. The light reflects off the dark beams, making them look like the inside of a cave, ancient, sheltering, carved by time and patience. You lean back slightly, letting the warmth settle across your chest. The candle flame blurs softly as your eyes grow heavier. The oil lamp burns with quiet steadiness, its flame unwavering even as a distant gust rattles the shutters. Outside, winter continues its silent conquest. Snow builds on rooftops. Wind sweeps across frozen fields. Darkness swallows the horizon. But inside this small circle of light, you feel human. You feel warm. You feel protected. Light is not decoration. It is survival. and tonight it is enough. When night deepens and the hearth's glow begins to fade, you prepare for sleep. In this land, sleep without warmth is a danger, a silent threat that steals breath and stiffens limbs. You reach for a smooth river stone sitting near the edge of the fire. Earlier in the evening, you placed it there intentionally, letting it absorb the flame's heat. Now, when you lift it with a wool cloth, the stone radiates warmth, almost painfully hot at first, but quickly settling into something soothing and steady. You wrap it tightly in a bundle of cloth, tucking the fabric around it until it feels like a small, warm heart beating in your hands. Carrying the heated stone to your sleeping place, you tuck it into the furs near where your feet will rest. The heat seeps upward immediately, turning the cold bedding into a pocket of gentle warmth. You press your hand to the blankets and smile softly. Winter may be harsh, but here, in this home, you have learned to tame it piece by piece. Fire, fat, wood, stone. When you finally lie down, pulling the thick furs over your shoulders, the warmth from the stone reaches your legs. It spreads upward slowly, relaxing muscles tight from days of cold. Earlier in the evening, you placed it there intentionally, letting it absorb the flame's heat. Now, when you lift it with a wool cloth, the stone radiates warmth, almost painfully hot at first, but quickly settling into something soothing and steady. You wrap it tightly in a bundle of cloth, tucking the fabric around it until it feels like a small, warm heart beating in your hands. Carrying the heated stone to your sleeping place, you tuck it into the furs near where your feet will rest. As you settle deeper beneath the heavy furs, you feel the warmth of the heated stone spreading slowly, like a tide rolling up from your feet toward your chest. It is not the sharp heat of a flame, but a steady, patient warmth, the kind that feels alive, almost breathing. The stone rests quietly beneath the layers, giving off a pulse of comfort that soothes the cold, stiffened muscles you carried all day. You shift slightly, letting your legs curl closer to the warmth. Outside, the wind claws at the walls again, testing them. But the firewood burns steadily in the hearth, and the candles glow softly beside you. You listen to the fire's final crackles, the stone pulsing warmth through the blankets, and the faint creak of wood expanding and contracting in the cold. Tonight, you will sleep safely, warm, protected, held by light and fire, by stone and wood, by the quiet wisdom of a people who mastered winter one flame at a time. The storm is no longer a threat, it is simply a voice in the night, one that you hear from the safety of bed. You close your eyes for a moment, listening. The wind, the faint crackle of settling logs, the soft hissing of the heated stone beneath the blankets as it cools against the furs. It's a symphony of winter harshness outside, warmth inside, a balance medieval life depends on. A flicker of light dances across your closed eyelids. When you open them again, you see the glow of the tallow candle still burning on the low wooden table. Its flame sways gently, casting thin shadows that move lazily across the ceiling. The candle is small, fragile even, but in the dark of winter, its presence feels enormous. The light drifts across the beams overhead, revealing the soot-darkened wood that tells stories of countless winters before you. Smoke from seasons past has stained the ceiling in layers, soft gray in some places, deeper charcoal in others. You stare at those patterns and feel unexpectedly comforted. Every stain, every shadow, every uneven mark is the record of a flame that once kept someone alive through long nights, just as this one keeps you alive now. You pull the furs closer, and their warmth wraps around your shoulders like a thick embrace. Instinctively, you curl your hands near your chest to preserve heat. It's strange how simple things, a stone, a log, a flame, become sacred in winter. You shift again and feel the weight of the blanket settle more firmly over your shoulders, trapping pockets of warm air around you. The furs rustle softly, and the sound blends with the low murmur of the fire. Even the coldest air in the room, that thin, crisp current that slips along the floorboard, stays beneath the furs, unable to touch your skin. For a moment, you let your mind wander to the villagers who taught you this method. "A warm stone is a sleeping companion," one of them said, placing a heated rock between layers of blankets. "It won't talk back or steal your covers, but it will keep you alive." You remember his laugh afterward, tired, gentle, filled with truth. You didn't fully understand then, but now, curled up in this winter night, you do. Another gust of wind rattles the shutters, stronger this time, as though winter is testing the house. But the walls remain steady. The logs creak slightly, expanding and contracting with the shifting temperature. But they hold firm. The wind prowls outside, searching for cracks, but it finds none big enough to matter. The moss and clay insulation keeps the cold at bay. The roof shrugs off the accumulating snow. The house shields you like a wooden guardian. The candle flame sputters briefly as a draft sneaks in under the door. You watch it closely. It bends. It trembles, but it does not go out. It straightens again, steady and calm, as if reminding you that small flames can outlast even the fiercest winds if given a place to stand. Your eyelids grow heavy, and the room softens at the edges. The shadows blur. The firelight blends into a warm haze. You shift your head on the pillow of bundled cloth, letting the fabric cradle your cheek. It is cool at first, but your breath warms it quickly. The sleeping area smells of straw, furs, and faint traces of herbs that someone tucked into a corner to keep pests away. Lavender, maybe, or mugwort. The scent floats gently in the air, mixing with the smoke from the hearth. It creates a kind of forest dream aroma, earthy, wild, yet soothing, like lying beneath pine boughs in summer. You take a slow breath, then another, and slowly, your body unwinds. Your feet are warm. Your legs are warm. Your chest rises and falls with deep, steady breaths. Sleep begins to tug at your mind, pulling it towards softness. The fire cracks again, as though whispering a final goodnight. The heated stone pulses with its last strong wave of warmth, then settles into a gentle glow beneath the blankets. Your thoughts drift to the world beyond the walls, the frozen plains, the heavy forests, the animals curled in their dens, the endless white of winter stretching far into the horizon. Somewhere out there, wolves tread softly through the snow, leaving tracks that disappear almost as quickly as they form. Somewhere, trees stand silent and bare, branches heavy with frost. But none of that reaches you. None of it touches you. Inside this home, winter becomes only a distant presence. Dangerous, yes, always dangerous, but no longer powerful enough to harm you tonight. You listen as the wind dies down for a moment, replaced by a deep silence that fills the room like a blanket. The only sound now is the soft hum of the glowing embers and the faint whisper of your own steady breath. The candle continues its slow burn, the flame shrinking just slightly as the wax melts. It will last for hours, yet long enough to keep the shadows gentle through the deepest part of night. With your eyes half closed, you watch the flame through your lashes. It blurs into a golden smear of light that flickers softly, like a star behind clouds. You feel the warmth from it on your cheek, barely there but present, a companion, a watcher, and as your breathing slows further, a profound sense of safety settles over you, the kind that only comes when every threat has been softened, every need met, every discomfort soothed. You nestle deeper into the furs, letting your body sink fully into the warmth. The stone beneath your feet is cooler now, but still warm enough to protect you from the creeping chill. The blankets feel heavier, grounding you into the moment. Your mind drifts, slow and drowsy, like snowflakes falling at the edge of dawn. Warmth holds you. Light guards you. Stone anchors you. Wood shelters you. The fire in the hearth is the sun, powerful, central, commanding. But these little lights are like the moon and stars, quieter but vital during the long, dark hours. When the fire has burned low, you lift the candle again, bringing it closer to inspect the way its flame rises. It reminds you of something the village elder once said: light is memory. Every flame remembers the warmth that made it. You didn't understand then, but now, as darkness crowds the world outside, you do. The last thing you feel is the weight of the blankets, the softness of the furs against your cheek, and the gentle, lingering warmth rising through your body from the stone below. And in that moment, warm, protected, and held by the quiet wisdom of generations, you finally, peacefully, fall asleep. Morning comes quietly, with a pale light seeping through the window and a deep cold pressing against the walls. When you rise from your bed of furs, the air inside the house nips at your face and hands. The fire has burned low, embers glowing faintly beneath a thin layer of ash. You know before you even step outside that today will demand every layer of warmth you can find. You reach for your kojuch, the sheepskin coat that hangs from a sturdy wooden peg near the door. Even before you put it on, the weight of it rests solidly in your hands, reassuring in its heaviness. The outer surface is tanned leather, tough and weathered, bearing scratches and stains from seasons of work. But when you run your fingers along the edge where the coat opens, you feel the softness of the wool within, thick, curled, impossibly warm. You slip your arms into the sleeves. The wool presses against your skin like a warm embrace. At once, you feel the cold pull back. The kojuk settles over your shoulders with the familiarity of a loyal companion. It is heavy, yes, but its weight is comfort, a constant reminder that you are protected. The villagers told you long ago that a good kojuk lasts a lifetime, stitched by careful hands, reinforced at the seams, softened over years of wear. They weren't exaggerating. As you fasten the simple leather ties across your chest, the warmth gathers around your ribs, your back, your neck. You pull the collar up slightly. The wool brushes your jaw. Your breath warms the fibers. You understand now why this coat is passed from parent to child, why villagers mend it again and again rather than replace it. The kojuch is not clothing, it is armor. A second skin built for a world where winter tries to strip you down to bone. When you finally step outside, The wind greets you with a sharp bite, but the kojuk receives the blow on your behalf. The cold settles harmlessly on the leather exterior, unable to reach the warmth inside. Snowflakes land on the surface and melt slowly, leaving small dark spots before disappearing. You tighten the belt around your waist. The coat hugs you closer. You feel ready. As you step farther from the doorway, the world opens around you in a rush of cold and quiet. The snow beneath your boots compresses with a soft, crisp crunch, a sound that only winter can make. Your breath rises in pale plumes, drifting upward before dissolving into the still morning air. The sky above is a washed-out gray, the kind that promises more snow before the day is done. You tug the kojuk's belt one more time, ensuring no gap remains where the wind could slip through. The coat sits firmly against you, its warmth radiating inward, its leather flexing gently as you move. With each step, you feel the coat settle more fully around your body, shaping itself to your motion like a living thing determined to shield you. A gust of wind sweeps across the open field, lifting fine snow into the air. It twirls around your legs, brushes against the back of your coat, and tries to reach your skin, but the kojuk blocks it all. The leather stiffens slightly against the cold, forming a protective shell, while the wool inside traps every hint of heat your body produces. Even your breath warms the collar as it escapes your lips, creating a faint halo of steam that settles briefly on the fur and fades. The fire in the hearth is the sun, powerful, central, commanding, but these little lights are like the moon and stars, quieter, but vital during the long dark hours when the fire has burned low. You lift the candle again, bringing it closer to inspect the way its flame rises. It reminds you of something the village elder once said: light is memory. Every flame remembers the warmth that made it. You didn't understand then, but now as darkness crowds the world outside, you do. You spot one elder near a firewood stack, adjusting his coat with stiff fingers. His kojuk is older than yours, patched in places where the leather had worn thin, but still functional. When he catches your eye, he lifts a hand in greeting, then tugs the coat's collar higher around his ears. You mimic the motion, feeling the wool embrace your neck a little tighter. Step by step, you make your way toward the animal pens. The cold is harsher here, more open, more raw, but the layers you wear keep you insulated. Your linen undergarments cling to your skin, dry and warm from your body heat. Your wool tunic holds the warmth in place. Together with the kojuk, the layers form a fortress around you. You flex your fingers inside your gloves, leather on the outside, wool on the inside. Even here, warmth lives in layers. Your fingertips tingle slightly, but not with cold, more with the memory of movement returning after a night's sleep. You pause for a moment and close your eyes, feeling the winter air press against your coat, testing it. The cold rolls off, beaten back by the sheepskin, unable to penetrate the thick wool interior. Behind your eyelids, you sense the faint glow of morning light growing, mingling with the warmth your coat builds around your body. This warmth feels earned, not given, not borrowed, earned. You open your eyes again. The village looks different in daylight, the snow brighter, the roofs sharply outlined in layers of white, the trees standing stiff and bare like sentinels. Every breath you take feels crisp, biting at your nostrils, but warming instantly once it reaches your scarf. You adjust the kojuk again, smoothing the leather along your arm. The movement is reassuring, familiar like petting the side of a sturdy horse. or gripping the handle of a tool you trust deeply. It reminds you of the craftsman who made this coat, who stitched every seam with the understanding that winter offers no forgiveness. You reach into your pocket and feel the soft lining, worn smooth by years of use. Inside lies a small wool scrap, a leftover piece from when one of the villagers helped you mend a tear last month. You run your thumb across it absent-mindedly, remembering the warmth of that night, the shared stories, the fire cracking in the hearth. Another gust of wind rushes through the field, stronger this time. Snow billows around you, swirling up in tiny tornadoes of white. You plant your feet firmly, the boots gripping the packed snow beneath, and let the wind crash harmlessly into your coat. It feels like your first real test of the day. And you pass it. You look across the open expanse and see the tree line in the distance, the edges of the forest dark and still against the white horizon. Beyond those trees, winter is wild and unforgiving. Here in the village, winter is watched, managed, resisted. You breathe in deeply. The air is sharp but clean, cold but honest. The kojuk holds the line. Your layers hold the warmth. Your boots hold your footing. And you feel in a way that is both simple and profound, ready to face the day. You take one last moment to appreciate the warmth cocooning you. The coat moves when you move, bends when you bend, and shields you from a world that would freeze you solid if given the chance. Then you turn toward the tasks ahead, feeding animals, breaking ice for water, checking the wood supply, clearing the path near the house, and take your first real steps into the winter morning. Wrapped in wool and leather, guarded by sheepskin and straw, you walk forward into the cold, protected, steady, unafraid. Before the kojuk ever touches your skin each morning, you prepare the first and most important defense layers. You begin with linen undergarments, simple, undyed, and soft from many washings. The fabric feels cool at first, but linen has a way of warming quickly with your body heat. It absorbs moisture when you sweat, keeping your skin dry even when you work hard in the cold. Every villager knows the rule passed down from generations. Warmth begins with dry skin. And once the linen clings comfortably to you, you reach for your wool tunic, thick, slightly scratchy, but undeniably warm. The tunic drapes over your shoulders like a blanket shaped for your body. The wool is dense, woven tightly so that even on the coldest days, barely a whisper of wind reaches your skin. You pull the sleeves down your arms and feel the warmth settle in, deeper and more complete with each layer you add. Wool holds heat like nothing else. It breathes, yes, but it also traps warm air close to your body, forming a protective barrier that winter struggles to penetrate. Some days, especially when the sky hangs low and gray, you add a second tunic or a woolen vest. The layering system is simple, humble even, but brilliant in its practicality. You feel no need for elegance, not when the threat of frostbite lingers in every gust of wind. You roll your shoulders and stretch your arms. The layers move with you, soft, flexible, protective. When you slip on the kojuk over it all, you feel the transformation fully from a vulnerable human into someone winter must struggle to touch. The moment the kojuk settles over your layered clothing, something shifts inside you, a quiet certainty, a grounded readiness. Where a moment ago the cold felt like a looming threat, now it feels like something distant, something you can face rather than fear. Warmth gathers beneath the sheepskin, held in place by the linen that wicks away moisture and the wool that traps heat like a living shield. You take a slow breath, feeling the air fill your chest. The layers expand with you, moving easily, comfortably, as though they were always meant to fit together. There's a rhythm in the way the garments work. Linen closest to your skin, keeping you dry. Wool insulating the core of your body. Leather and fur guarding you from the winter's bite. 3 worlds of material, 3 ancient solutions, all working together around your heartbeat. As you adjust the sleeves of your tunic, you notice how the wool rests lightly against your wrists, offering warmth without smothering you. The fibers catch the faint heat your body produces and hold it close, recycling warmth each time you move. You flex your fingers experimentally, watching the fabric bend and soften with your motion. The wool remembers the shape of your limbs, the small curve of your elbow, the slope of your shoulder forming to you as naturally as bark forms around a growing tree. You tighten the cord tied around your waist. The layers shift closer to your body. You feel the warmth deepen. You move toward the door, taking a few steps to test the fit. The layers slide together perfectly, neither too tight nor too loose. You crouch slightly, then straighten again. The wool stretches just enough. The linen holds gently to your skin. The koshuk moves with your spine like a second backbone. Nothing chafes. Nothing binds. Nothing leaves your skin vulnerable. The villagers have always said that you can judge a person's wisdom in winter by the way they layer their clothing, and at last you understand the truth of it. Layering isn't vanity. It isn't style. It is strategy, a living system, shaped by generations of experience and honed through countless winters where mistakes were paid for dearly. You run your hand along the hem of your tunic. The wool feels thicker than it did last year, as though it has learned the cold's tricks and fortified itself for battle. You remember the woman who wove it, her hands swift and skilled as she worked the loom, her voice humming an old tune that blended with the beating of the shuttle. She told you then that good wool can save a life, that a single tear or a patch missed by careless weaving could let the cold in like a knife. You didn't doubt her then. You doubt her even less now. You pull your scarf from its peg, a long, tightly woven strip of wool, dyed a deep, earthy brown. You wrap it once around your neck, then again, tucking the end securely into the folds so it won't come loose in the wind. The wool settles around your throat, soft but firm, warming the air before you breathe it in. You feel the warmth shape your breath, protecting your lungs from the cold that could otherwise stab sharply at your chest. Your breath escapes into the scarf in gentle clouds. The fabric warms instantly. Your skin responds with a grateful sigh. The layers have created an ecosystem around your body: dry linen, insulated wool, protective leather, and shielding fur, all held together by your own movement, your own breath, your own need to survive this winter. You reach for your woolen gloves next. They're thick but flexible, woven by hands who know how quickly exposed fingers can stiffen and lose feeling. You slide your hands in, and the warmth that gathers around your palms feels like the beginning of fire spreading through your blood. You curl your fingers into a fist, then release, testing each joint. The gloves respond easily. You lower your hands, balling them lightly at your sides. The layers around your arms and chest shift with you. Everything feels right. Everything feels prepared. Your fingers are already warmer than they were when you first came inside, no longer stiff from gripping firewood or brushing snow from your coat. The heated stone continues its quiet work, radiating warmth that seeps into your bones. You can almost imagine the stone's journey, once lying cold and forgotten at the bottom of a river, shaped by centuries of flowing water, now resting beneath your feet like an ember of life. When you pull the door open, the winter air rushes in, swirling around your layered clothing like a curious animal sniffing for weakness. It probes at your sleeves, your collar, your chest. It tries to slide beneath your tunic, down your neck, through your gloves. But the layers hold. You hold. Your warmth stays where it belongs. You step outside, closing the door gently behind you. The sound of the latch clicking echoes faintly in the cold morning. The world is silent, heavy with snow, wrapped in frost, waiting for you to brave it. You take your first step into the white-covered path, your boots crunching softly. Cold air presses against your face, but your body remains warm, insulated, protected, ready. And in that moment, as winter circles you like a wolf testing the strength of a fence, you feel a quiet pride rising in your chest. You are no longer simply dressed. You are prepared. The cold must work harder if it wants to reach you now. And winter, ancient and merciless as it is, will find no easy victory against your layers today. You glance down at your boots, sturdy leather worn smooth from years of use. They look simple enough, but inside them lies one of the most ingenious safeguards of winter: straw insulation. You take them off and pull out some of the old straw, replacing it with fresh, dry stalks from the small bundles stored near the door. The straw crackles softly in your hands. You can feel how light it is, how airy, but that is exactly what makes it effective. It traps pockets of warm air, creating a cushion between your skin and the freezing ground. You push the straw carefully into the toes of the boots, packing it tightly but not so much that it loses its spring. Then you line the sides, the heel, and finally the sole. When you step into the boots again, the straw shifts slightly, forming itself around the shape of your foot. The warmth is immediate. You wiggle your toes, feeling them sink into the soft layer. No cold leather touches your skin. Instead, the straw forms a protective nest that guards you from frostbite with surprising efficiency. You tie the leather straps across your ankles, securing the boots firmly. You stomp once, twice. The straw settles with a soft whisper. These boots are not elegant, they are not fashionable, but they are reliable, and in winter, reliability is worth more than beauty. Before leaving the house, you bend to pull on an additional layer. Woolen leg wrappings tucked beneath your boots and tied tightly along your calves. They prevent cold air from creeping upward and keep snow from slipping inside when you walk. When you stand upright again, fully layered, fully insulated, your feet feel invincible. You could walk across frozen fields. You could stand in snow up to your knees. Your feet, your foundation, would remain warm. You take a few steps across the room, testing the fit of your boots. Each movement sends a quiet rustle through the straw, a sound so soft it feels like a whisper. You wiggle your toes again, letting the warmth bloom from the bottom of your feet upward. The sensation is gentle but reassuring, the kind of warmth that doesn't fade quickly, the kind that lingers and protects. You pause near the door and lift one foot slightly, pressing the sole against your hand. Even through the leather, you can feel how well the straw insulates. The cold floor does nothing to it. The warmth stays inside, trapped like a tiny hearth beneath your toes. You understand now why villagers swear by this method, why they choose dry straw over expensive furs for their boots. It's simple, clever, and effective, the sort of wisdom carved into daily life by generations of people who learned winter's lessons the hard way. Another layer of wool around your calves seals the system perfectly. The wrappings hug your legs firmly, but not uncomfortably. They keep snow from slipping inside, keep wind from knifing upward, and keep warmth from escaping. You run your hand down your shin, feeling the firmness of the cloth beneath your fingers. You lift your other leg and test its strength. Warm, solid, confident. Your feet feel ready for anything the day might demand. You walk toward the door again, feeling the way the straw inside your boots adjusts to each step. It moves with you, never stiff, never clumsy, shaping itself to your foot like a living cushion. The sensation is oddly comforting, as though the earth beneath you has softened, offering support rather than cold hostility. You remember a villager telling you once, "Straw is winter's kindness. It grows in summer so your feet can survive the cold." At the time, you laughed at the poetry of it. But now, standing here, wrapped in layers of wool and fur, your feet warm even as frost creeps up the windows, it feels true. Straw might be humble, but it holds warmth better than any embroidered boot or polished shoe. It is light, living, and alive with insulation. You bend down one last time to tighten the leather straps again. They don't squeeze or dig into your ankles. Instead, they anchor the boots firmly, keeping everything secure as you move. The leg wrappings disappear neatly beneath the edges, creating a continuous line of protection from your calves down to your toes. You straighten up and give your boots another firm stomp on the floor. Thump, thump. The sound echoes through the room, solid and steady, the sound of readiness. You reach for the door latch, but before stepping out, you pause for a moment. Your mind drifts briefly to the memory of days when you walked through early winter without proper insulation. The sting of frost along your toes, the numbness creeping in slowly, then suddenly, the ache that reached deep into the bones. Those were lessons, harsh, unforgettable lessons. Now you know better. Now you walk prepared. When you open the door, the cold rushes in like a wave, sharp, eager, merciless. Snowflakes swirl around your boots immediately, settling on the leather like scattered white grains. The wind pushes at your legs, searching for weakness. But your boots do not yield. Your feet remain warm. The straw holds the line. You step out onto the snow-covered ground, and your boots sink slightly into the white powder, leaving deep, defined prints. You stand firm. No cold seeps in from beneath. No icy sting creeps along your toes. Instead, warmth circulates around your feet, rising from the wool wrappings up through the layers. You take one step forward, then another, then another. Each step feels confident, grounded, sure. The world around you may be frozen, harsh, and unforgiving, but you, wrapped in wool, armed with straw, leather, and layers, feel protected from the earth up. You glance across the field, at the faint morning light barely breaking through the heavy sky. It's the kind of day when winter tests every weakness, every oversight. A careless person could lose feeling in their toes within minutes. But not you. Not today. The straw inside your boots shifts again as you move, forming itself perfectly around your feet, cushioning your step, warming your skin, guarding you like a quiet, natural ally. You take a deep breath. The cold burns your lungs, but your body remains warm. Your feet remain steady. Your steps remain sure. And as you start your walk toward the barn, the well, or wherever your morning tasks call you, you feel the truth settle into your bones. With warm feet, you can face anything winter throws at you. With warm feet, you do not fear the snow. With warm feet, you belong in this land of ice. Before stepping into the cold, you reach for the final pieces of armor, the ones that stand between winter and the fragile warmth of your breath. First, your fur hat, thick and soft, fashioned from fox or sheep. You press it onto your head, pulling it down until it covers your ears completely. In this small pocket of warmth carved from the heart of winter, you feel the ancient truth of the villagers, that survival is made not from grand acts, but from simple, steady rituals, repeated night after night. A heated stone, a flickering candle, a loyal fire, a quiet home wrapped in straw and moss. Your eyes close completely now. When you breathe through it, the scarf warms the air before it reaches your lungs, protecting you from the icy wind that could otherwise burn your chest from the inside. You inhale. Your breath fogs the wool. The warmth spreads back into your skin. You look down at yourself: linen, wool, kojush, fur, leather, straw, layered, reinforced, protected from crown to toes. Your clothing is simple, perhaps even coarse, but it is enough to withstand a winter that would freeze a careless traveler in hours. You step into the doorway. The cold greets you again, sharp as a blade. But this time, it pauses. It presses against your kojuk and meets wool. It slips along your scarf and finds no gap. It bites at your boots and finds only straw. Winter cannot reach you. You step outside not just dressed, but armored. The linen holds gently to your skin. The kojuk moves with your spine like a second backbone. Nothing chafes. Nothing binds. Nothing leaves your skin vulnerable. The villagers have always said that you can judge a person's wisdom in winter by the way they layer their clothing, and at last you understand the truth of it. Layering isn't vanity. It isn't style. But for the first time in many mornings, you feel no panic when the winter wind reaches you. It tests your clothing, yes, but it finds nothing to claim. You pause on the threshold, letting the wind swirl around your head, your shoulders, your legs. The fur hat shields your ears completely, creating a small oasis of quiet around your skull. The wool hood rests heavy against your shoulders, holding in heat and locking out the icy drafts that would once have slid down your spine. The scarf warms the air with every breath you take, turning each inhale into something soft rather than something sharp. You breathe deeply. The scarf warms your ribs. Your ribs warm your heart. Your heart warms the layers around it. You step farther from the door, and the village reveals itself in the pale morning light roofs, bowed under thick snow, fences rimmed with frost, smoke drifting lazily from chimneys like gray ribbons against the white horizon. Everything looks frozen, silent, wrapped in winter's stern grip. But you, wrapped in layer upon layer of wool and skin and straw, do not feel frozen at all. You feel alive. The wind pushes at your side again. Your kojuj absorbs the blow without flinching. The leather stiffens. The wool beneath softens the impact. Nothing cold reaches your skin. You adjust your scarf slightly, checking the knot, making sure the last fold still covers your mouth. The wool beneath is still warm, untouched by the cold that tries to cling to it. You keep walking, and the wind whispers past you, tugging at the loose edges of your coat. Each gust feels like a question, a challenge, a reminder of how unforgiving this land can be. But each gust is answered by your layers: linen gripping your skin, wool locking in heat, fur guarding your head, straw guarding your feet. Winter speaks. Your clothing replies. And winter, hearing no weakness, moves on. A few villagers cross your path, bundled in their own armor of wool and fur. Their scarves are frosted like yours. Their hats sit low on their brows. Their breaths rise in small clouds as they work. No one complains. No one curses the cold. This is simply life, and they have their defenses ready, just as you do. You greet them with a nod, and they nod back, a silent acknowledgement that you share the same quiet battle, the same need to endure. Your shadow stretches across the snow as you move, dark and solid. The sun is faint, barely more than a pale blur behind the clouds. But the world feels brighter now that you're part of it, wrapped, insulated, strengthened. You crouch briefly to adjust your boot. Even when you lower yourself into the snow, the cold cannot creep through the straw. Your foot remains warm, dry, alive. When you stand again, you brush the snow from the hem of your coat. The flakes melt instantly where they touch the leather, but stick briefly to the wool-lined edges before falling away. Nothing clings, nothing soaks, everything protects. You take a deeper breath, and the warm air inside your scarf fills your lungs gently. Your shoulders sag with relief. Something inside you, something old and instinctive, relaxes. You are not fighting winter anymore. You are matching it. The knowledge settles into your bones with a quiet, grounded certainty. You may be only one person in a vast white landscape. You may be surrounded by snow and frost and breath-stealing winds, but you are dressed in the wisdom of centuries. Every thread woven by hands that knew the cold. Every layer shaped by lives spent facing frozen fields. Every stitch holding stories of survival. You walk farther into the morning, each step firm and sure. The wind roars. Your clothing answers with silence. And in that silence lies strength. You glance down once more at your sleeves, your boots, your scarf. Nothing is extravagant. Nothing is luxurious. Everything is purposeful. Everything is earned. And as snowflakes drift onto your coat and melt into the leather, you understand with perfect clarity. Clothing is not fashion. Clothing is memory. The memory of survival. And today, wrapped in that memory, you endure. By the time the first frosts kiss the edges of the fields, you already know what must be done. Winter doesn't simply arrive, it announces itself, whispering through the trees, thinning the sunlight, sharpening the wind. And when you hear that whisper, you join the village in a frenzy of preparation. You remember those final days of autumn clearly. The smoke rising from every home. The smell of salt, fire, and meat lingering in the cold air. The rustling of drying herbs hanging from rafters. You stand beside the large wooden table behind your house, helping to salt slabs of pork and strips of fish. Your fingers sting from the cold brine, but you keep going. Each grain of salt you rub into the meat is another day of survival. You fold and pack the meat tightly into barrels, layer upon layer, until your arms ache. Nearby, smokehouses burn day and night. Inside, fish hang from long rods, trout, pike, herring, their silver skins slowly turning golden in the warm smoke. Meat hangs beside them, sausages, ribs, cuts of game from recent hunts. The smoke curls around them patiently, preserving them for the long days ahead. You check the strings holding the meat, making sure nothing slips. Smoke has a way of seeping into everything: your clothes, your hair, even your breath. But you don't mind. In winter, the smell of smoke means safety. You step outside and feel the crisp autumn wind push against you. Winter approaches, and you are preparing your defense, not with swords or shields, but with salt, smoke, fire, and time. You wipe your hands on your apron, leaving streaks of salt and smoke across the fabric. The sun hangs low even though it is still early in the afternoon, its pale light filtered through a sky already turning the color of iron. You feel the temperature falling, a quiet warning in the air. There is no time to waste. Their boots crunch over dead leaves as they approach the work area. You help them sort the fish, small for drying, larger ones for salting. Your hands move almost automatically now, guided by instinct and necessity. Every motion feels like a quiet prayer to the coming winter. Let there be enough. A gust of wind rustles through the yard, scattering leaves and swirling patterns around your feet. You look up. The sky has shifted again, darker, heavier. The sun struggles against the gathering clouds. Autumn is ending faster than anyone expected this year. You return to the smokehouse and step inside. The warmth wraps around you, thick and comforting, though the air is dense with haze. You cough softly, waving the smoke from your face. The fire burns low beneath the hanging meats, glowing red like a creature sleeping at the pit's center. You add more wood birch for steady heat and watch as the flames awaken, licking gently at the logs. The smoke curls upward again, drifting past the hanging meats in delicate spirals. It clings to your hair, your coat, your skin. You inhale deeply. The scent is harsh, but somehow grounding. This is the smell of work, the smell of preparation, the smell of staying alive. When you step back outside, the air feels sharper. You wrap your arms around yourself, rubbing warmth back into your skin. The villagers are still moving, carrying baskets, chopping wood, stirring pots of brine, fetching twine, tying bundles of herbs. No one stops. No one rests. Not yet. You walk toward a table where bunches of thyme, sage, and juniper branches lie spread in neat rows. Their fragrance rises into the cold air, bright, clean, almost medicinal. You gather an armful and carry them toward the storage room. Herbs, too, are part of your winter defense. You may be only one person in a vast white landscape. You may be surrounded by snow and frost and breath-stealing winds. But you are dressed in the wisdom of centuries. Every thread woven by hands that knew the cold. Every layer shaped by lives spent facing frozen fields. Every stitch holding stories of survival. You walk farther into the morning, each step firm and sure. The wind roars. Your clothing answers with silence. And in that silence lies strength. When you step outside again, the world feels quieter. The wind is calmed, but only for a moment. The trees stand still, their branches bare and skeletal against the gray sky. It is the stillness that comes before a change in weather, the earth drawing in a breath before exhaling winter fully. You look around the village, smoke drifting lazily from chimneys, children gathering fallen twigs, an old woman stitching a torn fishing net, a man sharpening an axe with slow, practiced strokes. Each person is doing something small. Each small task is part of something larger. Together, these actions form your true defense, not walls or weapons, but preparation, patience, and the quiet labor of many hands. You take a deep breath and return to the table. There is still fish to salt, still meat to pack, still herbs to hang. Winter looms closer with every breath of cold wind, every hour of fading light. But you are not afraid. You are busy. You are readying your home with everything the land has given you, everything your hands can preserve. Winter draws near, and you meet it not with fear, but with work, steady, rhythmic, necessary. Because here in medieval Poland, survival isn't a battle fought in winter. It is a battle fought in autumn with salt, smoke, and unyielding determination. And you intend to win. Near the edge of the homestead lies the root cellar, a dark, cool chamber dug deep into the earth. You push open the heavy wooden lid and descend the dirt steps, the air growing colder with every stride. A lantern flickers in your hand, its warm glow revealing shelves lined with clay pots and woven baskets. Turnips, beets, carrots, cabbages stacked like pale green boulders. You crouch near the baskets, checking each vegetable with careful hands. The earth clinging to their skins acts as a natural preservative, keeping them fresh for months. You brush your fingers across the rough, cool surfaces. Even in darkness, these vegetables feel like stored sunlight, slow, patient nourishment, waiting for you underground. You run your hand along the packed earthen walls. Cool, steady, unchanging. The root cellar doesn't freeze, even when the world above is buried in snow. It keeps food alive, not with heat, but with stillness. Down here, you sense the heartbeat of survival. Quiet, hidden, essential. You rearrange a few baskets, bringing the older vegetables up front and pushing the newer ones back. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is taken for granted. Winter is too long, too hungry for carelessness. Before climbing back up, you pause. The silence envelops you, a silence filled with promise. These vegetables will fill stew pots, simmer in soups, and stretch meals when meat grows scarce. The cellar is your winter stomach, a place of patience and endurance, carved from the very earth. You lift the lantern a little higher, letting its warm glow spill farther into the chamber. The light catches the clay pots on the upper shelves, their rounded surfaces darkened by age, lids sealed carefully with wax or tightly packed moss. You reach up and slide your fingers along one of them. Inside is dried apple, sliced thin and left near the stove weeks ago, until each piece curled inward like a sleeping leaf. You open the lid just enough to peek inside. Your eyes shift to another shelf, where strips of dried mushrooms hang in neat bundles. You touch them lightly, feeling their papery texture. These are treasures of the forest, boletus, chanterelles, milk caps gathered during late summer and sliced carefully before being dried above the hearth. A handful of these will transform even the simplest broth into something rich, dark, and nourishing. You reach into a basket of onions and hold one up. Its skin is papery, brittle, whisper soft. You peel a little of it away, watching the delicate layer flutter to the ground like a dry leaf. Even this humble onion is precious. In winter, every vegetable becomes a jewel. Its flavor is a reminder of seasons where the earth was abundant. The lantern flickers again as a draft stirs the air. You pose, listening, but nothing moves. Down here, the silence feels ancient, the kind of quiet that belongs to the earth itself. The ceiling above you, supported by timber beams, creaks softly under the weight of the frozen ground. Yet the chamber feels secure, like the belly of a sleeping beast that shelters you without question. You make your way toward the back wall where a large barrel sits. Inside is sand, fine, clean, slightly damp, and buried beneath it are parsnips and carrots, arranged in careful layers. You brush aside the sand with your hand and uncover a pale, firm carrot. Its skin is cool, smooth, unmarked by time. You lift it, feeling its surprising weight. This one carrot carries enough energy to keep you strong through a morning of cutting wood or tending to the animals. You bury it again gently. Everything in its time. Next to the sand barrel is a crate of cabbages. You lift one from the top. It is heavy, compact, wrapped tightly in its outer leaves like a tightly shut fist. A few edges show the faintest wilt, but the core remains perfectly crisp, a small miracle of storage. You press the cabbage back into place and wipe your hands on your coat. Your lantern light shimmers against the earthen walls again, revealing small rivulets carved by moisture. Each line on the wall tells a story, water slowly moving through soil above, freezing and thawing, following ancient paths. You trace one of them with your finger, feeling the cool dampness beneath. It occurs to you how strange it is that in a world full of threats, your life depends not only on fire and heat, but also on this underground cold, this quiet, this stillness. You climb the first few steps and pause halfway. You look back at everything stored here, rows of baskets, the clay jars, the bundles of mushrooms, the sand barrel, the cabbages, the onions, the dark crates of dried beans and peas. There is no scent of rot, no sound of pests, no wasting, just order. The flakes melt instantly where they touch the leather, but stick briefly to the wool-lined edges before falling away. Nothing clings. Nothing soaks. Everything protects. You take a deeper breath, and the warm air inside your scarf fills your lungs gently. Your shoulders sag with relief. Something inside you, something old and instinctive, relaxes. You are not fighting winter anymore. You are matching it. The knowledge settles into your bones with a quiet, grounded certainty. Near the top, you pause again and glance back into the darkness. Soon, you whisper quietly, even if no one hears. Soon, we will need you. Then, with a final push, you step out into the crisp air above. The world outside is colder, harsher, loud with winter's breath. But as you close the cellar door behind you and secure the wooden latch, you feel a profound steadiness settle deep in your chest. Winter can be long. Winter can be cruel. But you are not entering it empty-handed. You walk toward the house with purpose. carrying the quiet strength of the earth with you like a secret, like a blessing, like a promise carved into every root waiting patiently below. Back inside the house, you move toward the corner where enormous barrels sit, sealed tight with heavy wooden lids. Inside them lies one of winter's greatest treasures: sauerkraut, shredded cabbage, fermented weeks ago with salt, spices, and patience. You lift a lid slightly and inhale. The scent is sharp, sour, alive. A reminder that even in winter, something can grow, even if only in flavor. The villagers taught you early on that sauerkraut is not just food. It is medicine, a vital source of vitamins when fresh greens vanish under snow, a shield against the sickness and exhaustion that stalk cold villages. You scoop a handful and taste it. The tang hits your tongue immediately, bright, refreshing, almost electric, after weeks of heavy stews. Beside the sauerkraut, jars of pickled vegetables glisten faintly in the dim light. Cucumbers, mushrooms, beets, all preserved in brine or vinegar. Each jar holds a memory of summer, sunshine captured in liquid, waiting to spark life into winter meals. You open a jar of pickled mushrooms and breathe in the earthy scent. These mushrooms, gathered from the forest floor in autumn, were sliced thin and packed tightly for storage. The vinegar stings your nose, but your stomach warms with anticipation. Pickled vegetables cut through the heaviness of winter food, reminding the body that variety still exists in a land frozen solid. You set the jar aside for dinner. A simple act, but one filled with quiet joy. This is how you endure winter, not only by eating, but by remembering the tastes of warmer days. You run your hand along the sides of the barrel, feeling the faint condensation that clings to the wood. Fermentation is alive, not loud, not violent, but subtle, constant, like a heartbeat you can't quite hear but always trust. The cabbage inside these barrels has been transforming for weeks, changing slowly in the dark, becoming sharper, stronger, more nourishing as the days grew colder. You think back to when you first helped make it. The chopping of cabbage heads into thin ribbons, the coarse salt sprinkled by steady hands, the sound wet, rhythmic, as you pounded the mixture down with a wooden tamper to draw out every drop of liquid. The way the pile shrank with each push, softening into its own brine. You remember pressing the cabbage deeper into the barrel, layering juniper berries and bits of apple between handfuls, adding a few peppercorns the village trader brought months ago. Simple ingredients, but together they promised survival. Now, as you place the lid back onto the sauerkraut barrel, you feel a small warmth bloom in your chest. Pride, maybe, or relief. This food will not betray you. It will last. It will strengthen you when winter wears your bones thin. You turn to the shelves beside the barrels. Glass jars line the wood in neat rows, catching faint bits of lantern light. Their contents glow in muted colors: deep beet red, soft cucumber green, gold-tinted mushrooms suspended in brine. Even in the dimness, these jars shine like small lanterns of summer. You pick up one jar and turn it slowly in your hands. Tiny bubbles cling to the sides of the jar, evidence of life still moving, still changing within. Pickled foods, like fermented ones, don't sleep. They evolve. They wait. You shake the jar gently. The vegetables shift inside, still firm, still bright, despite months of cold. You smile. This food holds memory. Memory of warmth. Memory of sunlight. Memory of days when the air didn't bite your skin. In a world where everything freezes still, something that remembers warmth becomes more than food. It becomes comfort, hope, a promise that seasons turn, that nothing stays winter forever. You think of the first time you tasted pickled beets on a deep winter night. The stew that evening had been thick, but bland potatoes and barley, stretching what little meat you had left. But then someone passed around a jar of beets, their color vivid even in candlelight. You took one bite, and the bright acidity cut straight through the heaviness, waking your senses like a spark of ember in the dark. "You see," the old woman beside you had murmured, "that summer reminding you it's not gone, not really." You remember her words now as you set the mushroom jar gently onto the table. You choose a second jar pickled carrots this time and place it beside the first. Dinner will need brightness tonight. The days have been long, the work tireless, and the cold unrelenting. Even strong hearts can waver when the wind never stops howling. With the jars ready, you fetch a small clay bowl and press some sauerkraut into it. The cabbage crackles faintly as you pack it down. You add a small handful of juniper berries, rolling a few between your fingers first, breathing in their sharp pine scent. A forest in miniature. A forest you can taste. You set the bowl on the table near the hearth. The fire pops softly, casting warm light over your work. Everything feels calmer here, quieter, more manageable. Winter always seems enormous when you step outside a vast, cold beast waiting to swallow everything. But inside your home, with sauerkraut in barrels, vegetables in jars, and the hum of fermentation just beneath the surface, winter feels smaller, tamed, held at the door. You take a breath, letting the warmth of the hearth fill your lungs. Then you gather a few onions and dried mushrooms from the shelves. Tonight's meal will be simple, but simplicity in winter is a kind of grace. You slice the onions, their scent sharp and bright. You break the mushrooms into the pot of water already heating over the fire. You sprinkle in a pinch of fermented cabbage for depth. Then you add some of the pickled beets, watching their color swirl through the broth like ink spreading through parchment. As everything simmers, you sit for a moment on the bench beside the fire. The warmth seeps into your legs, your hands, your bones. The jars on the table glow faintly in the firelight, each one a tiny sun captured in glass. You close your eyes briefly and let yourself feel it. You have food, not abundance, not luxury, but enough. Enough to strengthen you, enough to nourish you, enough to face the cold. You open your eyes again. The soup is bubbling. The jars wait patiently. The sauerkraut barrel stands quiet, alive beneath its lid. This is winter nourishment in medieval Poland. Food preserved not only by salt and vinegar, but by memory, discipline, and care. And as you lift the pot from the fire, inhaling the bright, tangy aroma rising from it, you realize something. You are not merely surviving winter. You are carrying the warmth of every previous season with you. One jar, one taste, one careful preparation at a time. You set your empty cup aside for a moment, letting the lingering sweetness rest on your tongue. The firelight flickers across the walls, warm and rhythmic, casting long shadows that sway gently with the movement of the flames. Outside, the wind snarls again, louder this time, rattling the shutters as though winter itself is testing the strength of your home. But you barely flinch. Not tonight. Not while the heat of dinner still glows within you. You lean forward and stir the pot of bigos one last time. The stew has transformed completely. Its ingredients no longer separate but woven together into something dark, rich, and deep. A scent rises from the surface, sour from sauerkraut, smoky from meat, earthy from mushrooms. A scent that wraps around you like another fur cloak. A scent that says, you are not hungry tonight, and won't be tomorrow. You ladle yourself another small portion, not out of greed but gratitude. Nothing in winter is guaranteed. Every bowl is a victory. You scoop a bite. Soft cabbage, tender meat, a piece of mushroom soaked with flavor. The taste rolls over your tongue like a warm tide. For a moment, just a moment, your mind slips away from the cold, from the darkness, from the endless labor of keeping yourself alive. In that moment, you are simply human, eating good food by a warm fire, safe for another night. You glance toward the window. Snow has begun to fall harder, thicker, swirling in frantic patterns that blur the outlines of the world outside. The storm is building. The temperature is dropping. You can feel the cold pressing against the walls even from where you sit. But winter can press all at once. It will not pass the hearth. It will not pass the nourishment in your belly. It will not pass the work you have done. You take another sip of the herbal drink, warm honey melting into your chest once more. It soothes you in a way fire alone never could. This is a warmth that becomes part of you, that stays even after the last spark in the hearth dies. A warmth born not from wood, but from the land, the seasons, the quiet resilience of those who have lived here long before you arrive. You reach for the pot of mushroom soup and refill the bowl of an elder sitting across from you. She smiles, her eyes bright in the firelight, the wrinkles on her face softened by warmth and gratitude. She murmurs something in Polish, a blessing, a thank you, a wish for strength in the coming cold. You bow your head slightly in return. Community. It's another kind of nourishment. One you cannot store in barrels or jars. One you cannot salt or smoke. But one you feel just as deeply, especially on nights like this. After the elder is served, you sit back down, pulling your kojuk more tightly around your shoulders. The heavy sheepskin traps the heat rising from your belly, from the fire, from your cup. Layers upon layers upon layers, clothing, food, warmth, and time all building together into a fortress you carry within yourself. You stretch your legs toward the fire, letting the heat soak into your boots, into the straw lining that continues gently insulating your feet. You curl your toes, savoring the softness inside the leather, the gentle give of the straw that shifts with your movement. The wind screams again, louder. Snow slams against the window. A draft slips beneath the door. But your home holds steady. And so do you. You lean back against the wooden wall, eyes half closed, the warmth of the stew settling deeper into your bones. Your breath slows, your thoughts quiet. The storm outside becomes nothing more than a distant rhythm, steady, predictable, almost soothing. You think of all the food preserved in the cellar, the barrels of sauerkraut, the jars of mushrooms and beets, the root vegetables waiting in darkness, the wood stacked outside, the herbs drying above the hearth, all the small things that together form your shield. You feel it now, the invisible armor you've built with your own hands. Food stored, supplies gathered, meals prepared, warmth held, strength banked. And as your eyes drift toward the fire once more, dancing and alive, you understand something simple but profound. Winter is not beaten in one fight. It is beaten in many tiny ones. And tonight, you have won another. You curl your hands around your cup again, letting the heat seep into your palms. Outside, the world freezes. Inside, you remain warm. And as long as the fire burns, as long as the pots simmer, as long as the jars stay full, and the root cellar remains steady beneath your feet, you will continue to endure, one meal at a time, one night at a time, one breath at a time. Winter nights stretch endlessly, swallowing the sky before you've even finished supper. You know that if the fire dies, the entire house will plunge into freezing danger, water buckets solidifying, breath turning harsh and painful, the air sharp enough to steal life before morning. This nightly vigilance becomes part of winter life. Long hours, half dreaming, staring into firelight, keeping warmth alive, while the world outside sinks deeper into cold. As your fingers brush the wool, you feel warmth radiating back your breath trapped and held, creating a little pocket of comfort around your face. Without the scarf, the winter air would sting your lungs like needles. With it, your breathing stays even, steady, safe. A thin layer of frost begins to form on the scarf where your breath escapes, tiny white crystals gathering on the outer fibers. You brush them away gently, watching them fall like crushed diamonds onto the snow. The embers glow softly, pulsing like red eyes beneath the ash. You lean forward and stir them with a long iron rod. Sparks leap upward, bright and brief, like fireflies born from the heart of the earth. The heat sighs against your face. You place another piece of birch on top, listening to the crackle as the wood begins to catch. The flame grows slowly, licking the edges, reclaiming its strength inch by inch. Your eyelids grow heavy. The warmth makes your thoughts blur, drifting like smoke. But you force them open. Sleep is dangerous on a night like this. You rub your hands together, feeling the roughness of your skin. Winter does that, pulls the moisture from your fingers, cracks the knuckles, numbs the joints until even simple tasks feel like trials. You hold your palms toward the flame until the ache eases slightly. Behind you, the rest of the household sleeps, bundled together in a mass of blankets and furs. You can hear their breath steady, slow, soft. A small child murmurs in sleep. Someone turns over. The house creaks. The fire pops. The wind screams. But you stay awake. Sometimes, in these late hours, your mind wanders into thoughts you never have in summer. You think about how thin the walls truly are, just logs, moss, and clay between your heart and the void of winter. You think about how fragile the flame is, a handful of embers guarding the lives behind you. You think about how easy it would be to let your head drop, even for a minute. A minute is all winter needs. You shake the thought away, stand up, and walk to the window. Frost coats the glass like lace, each pattern delicate and cruelly beautiful. You trace a shape with your fingertip, watching the warmth melt a small circle into the frost. Through that tiny portal, the night outside seems bottomless, a swirling void of snow and wind with no horizon. A shiver runs down your neck. You step back quickly, not out of fear but out of respect. The night is something you endure, not something you stare into. You return to the fire, kneel beside it, and warm your hands again. The flames reflect in your eyes, turning your vision soft with orange glow. You add another piece of pine this time, quick burning, bright, perfect for moments when the cold presses too close. As the flame catches, the room brightens slightly, shadows pull back. The oppressive darkness in the corners loosens. The fire responds as though grateful for your care, rising with renewed life. You breathe easier. Hours pass like this slowly, quietly, thick with the weight of responsibility. The world outside may be frozen, but in this spot, in this small pool of light, you are the sole guardian of warmth, of life, of everything that keeps your household safe. The fire crackles. The storm rages. Your eyes sting. Your hands burn, but you keep going. And when at last you hear the faint shuffle of steps from the sleeping area, the next person waking to replace you, a gentle relief settles across your shoulders. You rise stiffly and give them a small nod. They nod in return, slipping into the seat you were just in, their face illuminated now by the glow that guided you through the long hours. You step away from the hearth, feeling the heat fade from your skin as the cold begins its silent pursuit across the room. But you've done your part. The fire lives, the house breathes, the family sleeps. When you finally lie down under the furs, letting the warmth swallow you whole, sleep comes fast, deep, heavy, earned. Behind you, the fire crackles again. Outside, winter growls. Inside, you rest. You have kept the cold at bay for another night. And when dawn comes gray and weak, though it may be, the fire will still be burning because of you. At first light, or what passes for light in winter, your next task awaits, tending the animals. The barn is insulated as best as possible with straw, clay, and wooden planks, but it is still cold. Even so, the animals' breath and body heat create a fragile pocket of warmth. You push open the barn door and are greeted by the soft grunts of pigs, the stamping of horses, the warm, misty breath of cows. This barn, filled with steaming breath and rustling straw, becomes your morning refuge before you face the harsh air outside again. You move deeper into the barn, the door closing behind you with a dull thud that muffles the distant howl of the wind. The dim light inside is tinted gold by the lantern you carry, casting long shadows that sway gently when the animals shift. Steam rises from their bodies in soft clouds, turning the air warmer than anything outside. A small living hearth, made not of fire, but of breath and fur. Your boots sink into thick straw as you walk. The floor creaks softly beneath you. The cows lift their heavy heads, blinking slowly at your presence. One nudges your sleeve with her nose, her breath warm against your skin. You place a hand on her neck, feeling the heat radiate through her thick winter coat. Her warmth is steady, dependable, a kind of comfort no hearth can replace. You reach for a wooden bucket and begin the milking. The rhythm is familiar, grounding. Warm milk flows into the bucket in soft streams, steam rising from its surface. Your cold fingers begin to thaw. The pigs shuffle impatiently nearby, snorting as they root around in the straw. You toss them scraps saved from the night's meal peelings, stale bread softened with water, and they dive into it eagerly, their small bodies wriggling with energy despite the cold. The horses stand quietly in their stalls, their ears twitching as they listen to the distant storm. You run your hand down one horse's flank, feeling the muscles shift beneath the thick fur. You check their hooves for ice, knocking off any frozen clumps that could cause injury. The horse snorts softly as you work, and you whisper reassurance, not because it understands your words, but because the sound of your voice steadies both of you. Then comes the hardest part, breaking the ice in the water troughs. You heft the axe and strike downward. The ice cracks, shattering into glittering shards. Cold water splashes against your boots, biting your skin with its icy sting. You scoop the broken pieces aside, stirring the water so it doesn't freeze again too quickly. The animals crowd in, drinking in deep, grateful gulps. You watch their throats work, their breath rising like warm fog in the frigid air. You move from stall to stall, checking each creature. Some blink at you with calm eyes. Others shuffle anxiously until you place a steadying hand on their necks. You whisper encouragement, quiet thanks, promises of more straw and warm feed. Because the truth is simple. You need them. And in their way, they need you too. You forget the long list of chores still ahead. You are simply here, surrounded by life, surrounded by breath and heartbeat, and the soft sounds of animals stirring as morning awakens. A chicken flaps its wings on the beam above you, sending down a small shower of dust and feathers. Somewhere near the back, a calf lets out a wavering bleat, calling for its mother. A pig snorts sharply, offended at another pig's attempt to steal its place at the trough. The cold presses against the walls like a living creature hunting for cracks. Because of this, your household takes turns tending the fire. No one is allowed to sleep through the entire night, not even the eldest, not even the young. When your turn comes, you sit wrapped in furs before the hearth, listening to the fire crackle softly. Outside, the wind claws at the shutters. Inside, you cradle burning embers carefully, feeding the flame with small pieces of birch so it lasts until dawn. The cold strikes instantly, brutal, sharp, unforgiving. But you have the warmth of the barn still clinging to your skin, soaking into your bones, and for a moment, you carry that warmth with you like a shield as you step back into the frozen world. Living through winter is not endurance alone, it is work, constant and unrelenting. You spend hours chopping firewood, swinging your axe until your muscles burn, stacking logs high enough to outlast the next storm. Each strike feels like a fight against the cold itself. When you need water, you walk to the frozen stream with a hammer or axe to break the ice thick, stubborn, hard as stone. You kneel, scoop the frigid water into buckets, and feel your hands sting and throb from the cold. Sometimes the storm tears at the thatched roof, ripping away bundles of straw. Sometimes the wind pries shutters loose. You repair everything immediately. Delay means danger. Winter does not care if you are tired. In winter, even breathing is a risk, but not breathing the warm air of the hearth is worse. So you learn to live between dangers, those that stalk outside in the snow, and those that grow quietly inside your walls. The wolves you can hear. The lynxes you can see if you're careful. The storms you can smell in the air before they arrive. But the sickness, the exhaustion, the poison of smoke and cold creeping slowly into your chest, those arrive quietly, like thieves. You sit by the hearth one night, rubbing your hands together as the fire burns low. The air around you is thick with smoke that refuses to rise, trapped beneath the heavy thatch roof. It clings to your clothes, stings your eyes, scratches your throat raw. You cough once, then again the sound echoing softly in the cramped room. Across the room, an elderly man coughs as well, deeper, harsher, as though his lungs are filled with winter itself. You know that sound. Everyone does. The beginning of something that can spread through a home faster than any wolf. You open the window shutter just a crack to let the smoke escape. The wind pushes back immediately, sneaking icy fingers into the room. The cold bites your cheeks, stiffens your fingers, creeps along the floor like a living shadow. But you keep the crack open anyway. Smoke is a silent killer. Cold is loud, brutal, but honest. You choose the danger you can see. Stories of families losing someone in the night, not because of wolves or storms, but because the air inside the house turned heavy and thick and impossible to breathe. Stories of children waking with frostbitten fingers because blankets slipped from them in the dark. Stories of neighbors found collapsed in the snow after stepping outside for a moment too long. Winter sharpens everything: hunger, fear, pain, silence. You stand and walk to the door, opening it briefly to let smoke spill out. A wave of cold enters with it, sweeping across your legs like water made of ice. The breath in your chest tightens instantly. You shut the door again, but the cold remains, crawling up your spine. You wrap your coat tighter around your body. Your skin prickles. Your jaw clenches. Your breath fogs in front of you. It is a constant balancing act, letting in just enough cold to breathe, but not enough to freeze. You taste it in the food passed down through centuries: bigos, kasa, pierogi filled with root vegetables and mushrooms. You hear it in the stories told around fires, tales of wolves, spirits of the forest, and long nights that test the heart. All of it born from winter. All of it shaped by the cold. All of it carried forward by people who refused to let the darkness win. A teacher that carved resilience into the bones of those who lived through it, including you. The storm outside softens into a whisper. The fire settles into glowing embers. Your breath slows, matching the rhythm of the house around you. Tonight, the cold remains outside, and you, wrapped in stories, warmth, and the ancient wisdom of survival, are safe. So let the wind roam, let the snow fall, let the winter take the world for one more night. You have done enough. You have endured, and now you can rest. Sleep well, sleep deeply, sleep warmly, as countless winters before have taught you.